Hello. Is it working? Is it working?
Hi, Artie. Good to see you. Oh, you got your food. You're good to go.
Are they ready?
They're ready.
Hello, Ben.
That's it. Those are good.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Can you?
No?
Hey, no snacks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what time? We're gonna take a dinner break, is that right? Oh,
There's no dinner break.
no dinner break. It's not in the budget.
No.
Well, let's get started.
We can't hear you. The microphone's on.
Is it on?
I have to get close. Oh, there you go. That's gross. We have to wash this off when we're done. Welcome to our 2025 budget meeting. I know that when we went through this process last year, the aldermen were just absolutely thrilled with the information that we were provided in the format it was provided. And I think every one of us walked away with a really good feeling of how we sit financially as a city. So I know there's a lot of information to go through, so let's get started. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation from Eric Schmidt.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we thank thee for this wonderful week that we've enjoyed. We are especially grateful for the weather that we've enjoyed and the ability of staff to put together this budget. Father, we're grateful to thee for the prosperity that this city has enjoyed and for the minds that have come together in order to maximize value to provide the services that our residents, businesses, and visitors deserve. We ask thee now to please bless us as we go forth, that we might be blessed with clear understanding, the spirit of discernment, and the ability to communicate effectively as we proceed through this and set the tone for the city moving forward, not only next year, but in the years to follow. We ask thy blessings upon the city, upon the region, and upon this country. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Clerk, could a roll call vote, please? Roll call, please.
For the Board of Aldermen, Lucas, Denham,
Here.
Cooper, Milton,
Here.
Howden, LeBlanc, here, Schultz.
Here.
And for the Finance Committee, LeBlanc,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Denham,
Here.
Milton,
Still here.
Williams, Pinkley, McBratney, Step.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum for both the Board of Aldermen and the Finance Committee.
Thank you. So we'll start with the agenda. This item is a briefing of our 2025 proposed budget. We'll begin with an introduction by Kathy Stepp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Before we get too far afield here, I just want to make a point of the amount of appreciation and respect that I've got for the men and women that are sitting in the audience with you all today. These are, in my mind and many others, highly esteemed professionals who have worked for at least the last 6 months on putting this product in front of you this evening. It's with great thought and consideration, very careful consideration, to make sure that we always have the taxpayer in mind when we're putting forth expenditures and doing our level best to make sure we provide a very quality return on investment for every dollar that's invested in our government. I also want to give special thanks and appreciation to the members of the Finance Committee who devote their time away from their businesses and their personal lives to be able to be involved in our community to help give us guidance, provide a private sector perspective, which sometimes we can slide away a little bit and over to the government side too much. So I appreciate the input that we received from you all. And of course, our Board of Aldermen and our mayor for the consistent guidance, consistent feedback, and the really clear direction and communication that we received so that we could better know how to put together a budget that really will mean something to propel Branson into the future. And we're doing that based on that guidance and direction that you all have provided for us, most recently at our Board of Aldermen retreat, which I think really provided Alex and I with a clear vision of what it is that you're looking to see. And it is my belief that you will see that we are going to be able to realize that in 2025. So a couple of things. I'm just going to go through some of the accomplishments that we had from last year, and I'm not going to be belaboring this too much, but I also don't want to dismiss it. I know we're talking about looking forward, but there's just been so many things that have been going on over this last actually couple of years, but last year in particular, we were entrusted. We were given direction by the board, by the 76 CID, by so many different groups in Branson to say, okay, we're gonna set this dollar figure up for you. Now, what are you gonna do with that? And it's my belief that the citizens of Branson will feel very confident as they're looking around the city to see many of the improvements and changes that we've made, whether it's in our city parks or our police department construction that's going on. Soon you'll be seeing 76 CID improvements as well as downtown Main Street improvements. And continuation of our police department, we built a brand new fire station. We've remodeled and had to refurbish a couple of older fire stations. So it is literally never a dull moment in the city of Branson, especially on the capital project side. But in addition to that, we've worked really hard on internal systems, standard operating procedures. You'll see a little bit of realignment in departments to help better capture the value of one FTE and being able to spread out some of that workload. Our answer is not always immediately, if we've got more work to do, hire more people. We're extremely thoughtful and cautious about those decisions, given the legacy carrying costs that come with that. So we're really looking at bringing private sector business ideas into local government for what I believe is really the first time in Branson. We're also talking about doing red tape initiatives. You heard me talk about that before. There's a lot more coming in 2025 when it comes to that. And those are some of the, if you will, softer things that don't get the sizzle and splash that capital projects do, but are equally important when it comes to how we're, again, providing the best return on investment that taxpayers make into our city. So at that, couple of key things I want to talk about that are going to be in the budget tonight. Hardening of our critical water infrastructure and plants, paying attention to IT security as well. Significant upgrading of water and sewer infrastructure like lift stations and mains to provide and promote economic development and future housing development projects. And to begin discussion on how to appropriately maximize our tourism tax revenues through strategic bonding instead of cash funding everything. So we're taking really good looks at how do we make our money work smarter for us. You'll be seeing again a lot of the different things that you're going to hear from Ben about where we are as a city financially today, where we look to be a year from now. Again, there's a little bit of tumult going on in the country, if you haven't noticed lately. And so we've again taken that into very careful consideration. So this is a very conservative budget. And I think it was important to take a very cautious approach. And God willing, everything goes swimmingly. And we carry off into 2025 without any disruptions that could affect our tourism. We planned on a little bit though, just to be on the safe side, is to make sure that we don't overpromise and end up under delivering. So I thank you again for your attention tonight. I thank our team here. And again, they've got support team back at City Hall that have been working and crunching numbers and really, again, looking to be creative with those dollars. And I firmly believe you're going to see that tonight. So thank you in advance for your attention.
Thank you, Kathy. So this budget presentation you're going to see tonight is based on a Trump victory. Without a Trump victory, we'll be meeting here again next week to go over the new revised budget. So next we're going to hear from Ben Hart and Colby of Baker Tilly. They'll provide the overview of the 2025 budget methodology, the timeline, and budget book fund balance summary. Ben, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be back here in Branson, obviously. I want to introduce our team that's always been with me behind the scenes or right there next to me whenever we're working with finance and putting this budget together. Colby Krzyzanowski, and there's a test on the spelling of his last name. And then Jessica Oliphant, who has been managing all the data that's come through. You got to understand the departments as a whole, there's 1,849 lines of data that we've got to budget, every single one of them. And I say we, as in the collective we, to budget every single one of them. So that's one thing. Keep in mind, this is the administrator's budget. So this is our presentation to you for your comments and input. Ask questions as we go through this. If we don't have the answer, Jessica's in charge of writing that down, and we're going to pull the answer together, and then we'll email it out before the next meeting. So we'll have that as a backup. It is a high level overview. As you notice in the book, a lot of the funds are rolled up. Just believe me when I say, and you'll see it in here, that we have scoured every piece of this budget front and back. This budget is for 2025. If you've been around a while, you know that we will bring back 2024's capital to roll funds over to 25. None of that is in here. That's actually coming to you in January when we do roll that over. And that way you'll see all the projects lined up and what the amounts are. And if they need to increase, you'll see those as well. Last thing is parking lot issues. If we've got other issues we need to tackle. And I say this, departments, it doesn't matter. If you've got questions and we can't answer them, we'll write them down to make sure that you get them answered before the first reading. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump in, and this works. That's good. So the 5 things we were focusing on up here were for the 25 budget. Obviously, increasing economic development. You can see each one of those. Making Branson open for business is a big one. And like Kathy said, we continue to make that happen within this budget fairly actively. On this agenda, these are the 5 items I'd like to go over before the departments really, actually the 4, before the departments get started. This is really their time to talk to you about their departments. Obviously, and they've got a somewhat limited time, but I think that's the meat of the whole conversation right there. But I do want to kind of lay some groundwork on how we started this whole thing. First with fund types, and that's fund with a D, not F-U-N. This wasn't fun. Actually, for me, it was fun. Nobody else was fun. So there's 3 buckets within the budget, if you think about it that way. Operating, capital, and debt are our 3 buckets that we've got to manage. Within the operating bucket, you can kind of see that we've got a muffin tin pan of all these different department funds. These are different checkbooks, if you will, that each one of these checkbooks sometimes cross over, sometimes have to require them to stay the same. General fund is the biggest operating fund we have, obviously. The combination of the general fund, the public safety, and parks are traditionally the biggest. That makes up one fund traditionally. So that would be the biggest piece of the operations. On capital, it's spread out between regular general accounting or general government capital projects at the top. Then there's tourism funds that are made up of or handle a lot of the capital, the water sewer capital. So a little bit of marketing in there as well, as you know. And then there's what's called internal service funds. Last year, we didn't spend hardly any time, if any at all, on what internal service funds are. But what these predominantly are used to accumulate and allocate funds for specific purposes. Within Branson, we pull funds together. If you get a surplus in a certain year, or we budget it, actively budget a number, we'll budget a number to pull into internal service funds for capital purposes typically. In the past, we put money over there for vehicles, and that's been over there. Any kind of big surpluses, like in the last couple of years, we were able to sweep off and put over there and then reallocate toward capital. And we'll continue to do that as we move forward. And then debt kind of speaks for itself. We've really got 2 different types. The general obligation debt, which is one of them, the public safety buildings, one of them. And then we've got the economic development debt right behind it. Those are separate funds all to themselves as well. This is at risk of making you a government accountant, which I don't wish that on anybody. We've got 5 different lenses, if you will, to look at these operations from. One is the general fund, and I already talked about the general fund being, the biggest operations of the city. Special revenue, these are revenues that are coming in for a specific purpose and they're to be used for that specific purpose. For instance, transportation sales tax have to be used for transportation. It's there. Tourism is the same way. Police and fire is the same way. Business type, this is water and sewer. This is really the only, if you would compare anything to commercial business, this is the only commercial business you've got. This is treated as a commercial business. It's got operating costs, cost of goods sold. It's got depreciation in it, and you hear that from Kendall ad nauseum. But that business that's the only business fund you've got. And then we mentioned already the capital funds. I don't have to go over those again. Debt's the same way, but the general funds are really the operating funds are split into those first three bars or three columns. Okay, the process. I do want to emphasize that this year, I feel like there was a lot more information flow to us and then back from us on a regular basis. We had continual meetings, obviously with the city manager's office, but more so the departments, making sure that they had information. They have access to everybody in our team, obviously. And I think Colby and Jessica heard from people the most and worked the closest with everybody. But what we tried to do is kind of amp that up. Last year, I know we had a kind of a gap in communication a little bit. It still worked out, but it was a gap in communication where wasn't a whole lot of people understood what was in their budget. What we did this time is when we were done with the budget, Kathy's budget, we went back to them and said, okay, here's everything. What questions do you have? And we walked through everything. And each one of these blocks represented a month. And yes, that first month is June. So we only have 5 months off before we hit this thing again. June is really camped out in our office where we start pulling the data together and put the underlying pieces together. In July, we start developing our baseline budget. And to note there, July is where we take our first shot at a new year forecast. And that's only 5 months. So, and it's not even your peak of sales tax for that matter. So we'll just roll numbers over, understanding where we're at that point and updating that budget as we go through the year or the budget process. And then August, that's between July and August and September, we'll actually meet with the departments in each one of those 3 years or 3 months. We'll do a kickoff in July, actually meet with departments in August and request information from them. And then they'll give us their first draft. So we'll be able to collect that information and really work it over. In September, we start collecting a lot of that, update the revenues and see where we land, right? September is really the first time we go, okay, here's everything in a nutshell. Do we have to cut? Do we have to add? What do we need to do? This year we went back again, right? As I said last year, revenues are going to slow down. And it's not a bad thing. We've had some fantastic years in Branson over the last couple of years, but we're going to get to a normal now. And I think the departments are going to like that because maybe they can get some of the stuff they wanted done now as we move forward. But September is September and then October is where we really nail down our forecast and meet with the city manager's office. And beginning of October, we're in front of you. So the next steps forward is the first reading, then in November, with the second reading either the end of November or the 1st of December in the state of Kansas, or state of Kansas, God forbid, state of Missouri. You've got to adopt a budget by the calendar year end. So that's what our plan is to adopt a balanced budget as we move forward. Any questions over that one? That's a lot of information at one time. I just got to second Kathy and applauding everybody that's here that works on this stuff. There was attention to detail that is bar none, and they still had a day job on top of what we saddled them with. And they did a phenomenal job. Just for an overview, now this is the fun part, at least for me, this is the fun part. The key resources, expenses, and fund balance. And I like this John Maxwell quote. I try to use it on my daughters all the time in college. They don't get it. The budget, one of them did get it this year. She's got actually a budget. I was impressed. But she's going to be an attorney, so who knows? So I like this one. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's what you guys do. As a city, we tell it where it goes instead of wondering where it went. So with that, our baseline assumptions on the revenue piece, some of these are fairly elementary. continuation of existing dedications and tax rates. Everything stays the same. Nothing's going to change. Revenue growth predictions are really, again, based on long-term trends. You'll see that in a couple of slides we've got built in here. On the revenue estimates, will continue to be modified during the budget process and during the year. As you know, we watch this on a monthly basis moving forward. With your finance director coming on, we'll do the same thing. Pass that off to her, make sure she's supported in what she's looking at. If we need to augment any kind of help, that's exactly what we'll do. We'll make sure she's successful moving forward, but we continue to watch those revenues. We want to be able to react to them. If something happens different, largely different than what we thought would happen, then we just need to be nimble enough to react to it. The nice thing about it is that really needs capital, slowing capital down or speeding it up for that matter. With the operations, you're fairly good. So those are the top three. Just for numbers' sake, city sales tax, we've got a 1% increase. Right now, we're chugging along around 2.8, 3%. We had the same number last year and it ended about 3.1 to 3.5%. I'm being optimistic here that we still got 3 months to collect, and those are typically some of the increases you see through the year, and you'll see that in here too. Tourism tax is a different story. We've had decreases in tourism tax every month this year. And what we've got is a forecasted 1.5% decrease. The tourism tax forecast for 24 is going to come in better than what we thought it was back in June, but it's still a negative. So we're going to just carry that forward. Now, well, we'll get to that eventually. Now, all the other revenues, which are probably 1,000 of those lines, are around 1% increase, the equivalent to the 1%.
Ben, are these numbers against this year's budget or current
That's a very
run
good
rate,
question.
or-
That's a very good question. These are against current year forecasted 24s. These aren't against budget. So this is against our forecast. And what we do in the forecast is we'll track every month. And like on sales tax, we've got October, November, December left. What I do is just pretend that stays the same or it matches the trend that we've seen and say that's our new forecast.
So what's the forecast compared to budget look like?
1% increase. It's 1% over our budget. So we're still in, that's a good question. Positive territory. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which is a little different than what we saw in the past.
So Ben, are these the projections that you're forecasting for 2025?
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
these are
what we're looking
25's
at doing in
forecast, right.
25.
Yeah, and they'll be modified. We'll go back and look at this against in 25 when we come back the same time next year. We'll look at this and see just how far off we were, and then if we were, why. And we can tell monthly as we go through this. Okay, so the budget. There's a lot of lines on this thing. The big deal here is the very bottom. This is comparing the first column being the 2024 budget to the 2025 budget. Overall, the 24 budget that we've got in the system right now is $177 million. Our 25 budget's $138 million, a significant decrease. That largely is representative of a lot of the capital that we've got put in right in 24. And there's a lot of capital in there. It also recognizes an unparalleled year when it comes to the revenue in 23 and 24. When we started building up those savings account, we can allocate that money toward that capital. But the nice thing about it is we were able to take a look at the long-term forecast and allocate operating funds so the departments had the people to pull off the projects. We were able to strategically put that into place too. And again, the major capital programs for 23 are still carrying forward. Some of them take a while to put in place, 18 months, 24 months. It just all depends on what it is. Some of them quicker. But I think that was a 38% decrease, or actually 28% decrease from 24 to 25. So that's a fairly significant decrease. General funds up. I'm not going to walk you through each one of these, but the general funds at the very top, we'll go through that a little bit more. And that's a small increase there. Resources to how do we fund all these costs, the $138 million. Citywide, this is what we have. Major categories, charges for services, you can see as a fairly large number. Most of that is going to be water, sewer, and parks, where you charge for services you have or charge fee for service. And then on down the line, when you see that taxes are really horrible horrible name, so I broke it out into what it really is. We've got a number of different categories when we line this up. Ad valorem, and this is all funds combined. It's not just one fund. Ad valorem, the CID, TIF, and TDD are the economic development aspects of what we do. Franchise is what it is. The marijuana tax, 600,000 that comes in there is split between fire and police. And then there's some other taxes, a whole bunch of different lines. It's kind of a minority stake in this total. Sales tax here is spread out. It's general fund and then public safety funds, all in that number, $32 million in sales tax. And then tourism tax is 17.7, that goes into the tourism fund. I know when we started looking at this, Mayor, it was $15 million. That was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a significant increase.
And just a few years before that, it was around 12 million.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we've been able to really push the accelerator down on a lot of the projects we've got. One of the other things I want to note, anytime you have a reserve, which really is a savings account, if you think of it that way, that you're building money up for capital projects, we'll add that to the budget. You see on the left-hand box, it says at the very bottom, it says grand total. Right above that says fund reserves. That's our savings account. Portions of our savings account we're going to use for parts of the project. So that's on purpose. They're one-time uses of that fund balance, but it's per policy. We can do that with capital, because if you do it with operating, you're not going to be able to fund it forever. But with capital, we can do that. So what that turns into is really a deficit in certain years, because we're eating into that fund balance on purpose. When we go to rating agencies, they see that as a positive, because you're putting cash to work for yourself, but you're also maintaining a fund balance policy. And I'll touch on that too. So two of the big guys on revenue, obviously, is sales tax within, and this is just the general fund, just as an example. When we look at any of the sales tax, transportation, public safety, it doesn't matter. It kind of follows the same trends. So we'll talk about the general fund here. You can see the dip right there in 2020 where the COVID happened and everything dropped from 19 to 20. And then you can see that curve, fairly significant curve from 2020 to 2023. That 23 was really our peak when it comes to the growth factor. It was fairly fast growth. At the blue bar, which I know I'm getting old, I'm starting to have a hard time seeing that. The blue bar underneath it shows the percentage growth from year to year, right? So you can see the 14% decrease there in 2020. It shot back up by 37% the next year, and it just kept going. What we see now, or what we expect to see from 25 onward, would be fairly flattening off. It's what you've expected to see in the past, pre-COVID. It was anywhere from 3 to 4% increases in sales tax. We've got forecasted through this 1 and 2%. So it's lower than than just to have an outlook, right, forward. So those percentages are kind of telling on where we've been. What 25 does is also recognize, really 24, recognize the tendency to spend less during an election year, because there's a lot of uncertainty. No matter what side you fall on, there's still people I know from my own house, we're not spending anything. I'm trying to get money out of my wife, but I can't get that done. But recognition of people just holding on. You also don't know what's going on with say your interest rates, right? I mean, people are putting a lot of money in CDs and interest just because they can make a lot of money. Heck, we did. As a city, we made a lot of money on interest, and you put that money away. Out years, I just mentioned 2% growth. And then what would change this, obviously, is any increased entertainment activity, economic activity. But what's not built into this and tourism is the work we've already been doing with the city on economic development. A lot of the economic development opportunities we see coming through, and I know my partner, one of our partners, actually works on that. Well, Colby does too. Work on those deals. We're not having those. That's not forecasted in here. We know they're coming online. It's just a matter of time when. So that should increase these numbers. But you'll notice from 24 to 25, none of those numbers go down. They're all up. Tourism fund, and that one's a sharp decrease. from 2019 to 2020. Same concept here, though. The only difference is between 23 and 24. That's that decrease, 18.4 million to 18.1. That's a decrease we're seeing. And then we expect another decrease in 2025, down a little bit before we start seeing some of that recovery. And the recovery in this case is still a 1% is what we're forecasting. I want to be able to come back and just average last 4 years and say it's 2-3%. We'll move forward. But just after everything going on in the economy and the world today, it's just easier to take a conservative approach and then react to it when we get it. But tourism fund obviously is used for major capital projects. In the past, it's always been for water sewer. We've got a little bit of transportation thrown into this one as well. That's the tourism tax. And the tourism tax, this is the increases I was talking about. You can see November and December, some of the bigger increases for those 2 months. So the biggest peaks obviously is July and August, and this is 1 month off. So June activity is actually collected in July and August. So you kind of see the summer months are our peak. And then when you go into the Christmas season from December and January, that's our second peak. We're just coming up on it. And you see in December, each one of those months went up. I mean, years, each one of those bars, those columns represent years. Each one of those years have gone up. And then in January, it's the same way. So there's a lot of positivity coming up for the Christmas season. We don't want to have a downer this time of year. Am I going the wrong way? Yes, I am. Sorry, hit the wrong button. So real estate tax. Obviously ad valorem real estate tax here. The assessments are done every other year. You can kind of see the pattern and the percentages down below. What is interesting in 24, the Board of Aldermen saw we have to do a public hearing for ad valorem tax rate and the rate. But what we saw is a 7% increase in assessed valuation. And that's just a representative of a lot of activity that's gone on for the last 2 years that's coming online as commercial activity and growth. Within 24. There should be another one coming up in 26. I would expect one to come up in 26. You see 25 kind of levels out because there's not reassessments. They don't go back out and actually evaluate it again. They'll wait till 26 to do that. In 24, we're still fairly solid on that number on the 3.29 million because we got 90% of the taxes that are collected already for the year, even though we've still got 3 months or 2 months left. In this case, the out years, we've got 2% and then followed by 0.5% increases. It just all depends on what goes on within the activity. It should be a lot higher than that. When we look at the general fund revenue, just as an overall revenue, you can kind of see what the increases have been here. I forgot to put the percentage increases on these, but it's fairly steady increases, even though is what we're forecasting, right? From 24 out to 30, we've got fairly steady increases within our forecasts. This table is just like the last one, only this is just for the general fund. Resembles the citywide pretty close. Charges for services, taxes being the biggest chunk of the general fund, ad valorem, franchise, and sales tax. Sales tax overwhelmingly being the largest funder of just the general fund. If you throw the public safety pieces in there, it gets even bigger. So we're really relying on that sales tax. That's also why I know in the last 2 years that we've been coming to you is stressing the importance of budget amendments and forecasts and making sure we're tracking those numbers and bringing them back to the finance committee. Because that way we can bring back capital projects, plug them in if they come in a little fast, the revenues come in faster. We can plug those in and we can reverse that cycle too if we see something slowing down. Baseline assumptions on the expense. Well, before I move forward, any questions on the revenue piece? Glenn?
Just in general on your tax models, are you factoring in, we've had almost 17% cumulative inflation over the last few years and income has not tracked to that inflation index. So discretionary funds are reduced in households? Is that factored into these models?
It is. And because last year in 24, we factored sales taxes flat. I mean, completely flat for that very reason. Thinking inflation is going to really hold the pocketbook closed. You're not going to have a lot of travel, not going to have a lot of entertainment. You're going to have a lot of those, well, what my daughters spend their money on or my money on. It's just not discretionary anymore. It's got to be, it's just the stuff they have to have. That's what we figured out for 24, just to leave that flat. Because if we come in positive, then that's good for us. That's also one of the reasons we got 1% in sales tax. Next year, we figured the answer in the next 2 months will actually give us a lot of information, right? It should set the pace for what 25 looks like. And we should see that December, January, when we come in with the collections in December and January.
So just a sanity check, did your model anticipate the shortfalls we've had the last couple of months? Would you have said that would?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. What I didn't think we'd get is the positives we had earlier this year. That's what I think I missed. But because we didn't think they'd come at all. And it popped up. And what we expected is the whole year to happen just like it did in the last couple of months. But that's a good observation. Yeah. And that's also one of the other points that you just made for me is tourism tax. Right. That's even more volatile than sales tax. Because you got to go to Walmart to buy clothes. You don't have to go anywhere else to travel. You can just stop traveling. So that's extremely volatile. The nice thing about it is we've got leading indicators, traffic data that we can take and try to get at least 1 month ahead of what we think is going to happen. And we've been fairly accurate. I want to say it was a 0.5% to 1% decrease in 24 for tourism tax, but it wasn't flat by any means. It was a decrease for tourism. Yeah.
Thank you.
So when we look at expenses, I just gave you everything on the revenue, not everything. You give you the 75%, 80% of the revenues that we collect, we just walk through. So how are we going to use those? Obviously, we've got capital, but we've also got operating that we have to plug in. 3% increase in wages. It's really split between a 2% COLA and a 1% COLA, 2% merit. Average is about 1 to 3% citywide. Loggers, most budgeteers or finance people see this as a negative. I think this is a big sell as why you want to be a city employee. I know as a private sector, I'm not pushing 16% on my retirement. This is a great deal. As a Kansas public servant, I got some over there, but this is a big deal. Is why some of that is attractive. General employee base is 16, almost 17%. Police and fire is a little bit different than that. Health insurance, we've got plugged in this at 10%. Vacancies, used to, we'd have a contra account. We'd actually factor vacancies into this. We back out some of those numbers. This time we didn't do that unless we absolutely knew who was leaving and we're not going to replace them. And so if anything, it's more conservative that way, fully budgeted, fully staffed, knowing full well there's going to be some turnover. On the other operating accounts, one of the reasons we go to the departments and ask their input is because they know full well what they need and what contracts or commodities they see increasing. That's what they give us. So we don't put an increase baked in there at all. We ask them, what increases are you seeing that we need to plug in? Contracts that go up, we just have to plug that in because we're liable for it. And then in the past, commodities have gone up, anything from chlorine to wastewater chemicals. It's all been going up. Fuel's been a little bit flat, but then again, as you add vehicles and employees, obviously it's going to go up. We have to factor that in too. We've been working on the public safety building on debt service for a couple of years now. So here real soon, we're gonna see that plugged in. It is plugged in for debt service for 25. Those are the big baseline expenditures. This time I did the percentages in here. So from 22 to 23, you can see that fairly sizable increase. I know one of the things I said at the beginning is seeing that increase. 22 to 23 was a 17% increase. That's when we saw the writing on the wall. We saw the cash sitting there. We need to get this spent for the good of the public, right? For the capital we have. And that's what we see is some of that increase happening. And it continues to go up. That seems like they're sizable increases. But if you think about it, that's where we're starting to spend a lot of the capital. Of course, when you have that much capital, you've got to have the project managers, the engineers, and the planners to be able to put it in play. That's what this is. So that's what you see in here. Is from an outward faced perspective, you're going to have those increases. Those are going to be anywhere from salaries, just new people coming on, not necessarily the same people in salary increases. They're just new people coming on. You're going to see that in public works. When we start adding people, they've got to have those people to pull off those projects. You're going to see that later in some of the presentations. And you can just see on the out years then, personnel increases, we're assuming 3%. You can read the rest, but it's about what we've done in 24, 25 is what we're assuming into the future. Knowing full well, as soon as I walk out that door, these are going to be wrong. That's what a forecast is built for. When we look at the expenses a different way, HR services is really anything related to people. Obviously, the biggest pieces of our piece, other than capital, the biggest piece of what we do is people related. Commodities got somewhat of a decrease there. You can kind of see the differences between the two. And this is the 177 million compared to the 138, right? It's the same comparative number that you can kind of see broken out in its different categories and how that kind of breaks down. It's not all people. And just a picture of it on the right-hand side, it's the same data. I do want to point out transfers out, transfers in and transfers out. You know, at the very beginning when I said we have different funds, right? We could take funds out of the general fund and transfer them to public safety, for instance, and we did. We did a lot of that, and to correct some things that had been not done in the past. Well, that transfer out of the general fund into the public safety fund, that's part of that transfer out. On the other side, when you look at the public safety fund, you'll see a transfer in. That's not something you actually see in corporate America. This is one of those governmental things. The corporate side would probably go to jail for some of the things we do on the government side, but there's rules around that, right? And that's why we get involved in this business, because it's more fun. We can do things like this.
Sound like a threat, man.
I know, right?
There is a reporter in the room.
The mayor goes to jail. No, nobody else.
That's the mayor right there.
That's it. Yeah, it's the mayor right there. No, and I do kid, but there's a lot of things from an accounting perspective you can't do on corporate America that you can do, and that's one of the biggest differences is those transfers. And sometimes the public don't understand what that is, and rightfully so. 4 years of education, it's still hard to understand sometimes.
If you don't mind, let me just throw in, when we talk about the increase in wages, just wanted to keep mention that with our new fire department, right? 12 new firemen, that's roughly 1.2 million added to our wages in 25 that we didn't have in 24.
And that is the core externally facing service. That's exactly where it should be. So those are expenses. Now the drummer roll. On the fund balances. Fund balances are a collection, if anything, they're a savings account, if you will. They're a collection of activity that from revenues that come in over expenses accumulated over time, right? One of the reasons we have fund balances to be able to mitigate any kind of risk in the future. One of the biggest risks, obviously, is tourism tax, like it did in 2020, bottoming out. And if you remember back to 2008, when I was forecasting revenue and then in charge of HR, so we had to put the forecast together and then lay off a whole bunch of people. Well, fund balances are put in place so you don't have to do that or carry you through some of those bad times, especially in the general fund. Now, I do have to say, parks, police, and fire, as much as they have separate funding sources, they're not completely funded by those separate funding sources. There is a reliance on the general fund, rightfully so. They're really general activity of the city. but they are split out just for transparency's sake. From a code perspective, that pull out that blue box up there shows what the code is we're required to do, right? When we look at our fund balance, what are we required to do? General fund's at 20%. What Colby did is when we were putting our budget together, we were aiming at 30. And when we aimed at 30, that actually gave us a little amount of money that we could use for a couple of different programs in 24 based on our forecast. And that's actually using those funds. We're still kind of high, but we're around 30-31%. Water sewer, it's not up here only because it's got plenty of money sitting in there. Parks and Recreation, 10%. Parks and Recreation was a little different, and you'll hear it from Cindy. When we were looking at the campground, expecting it to really take off, obviously that's been pushed out a little bit. So we've been able to adjust that. That's also some of the reasons why the difference in the parks takes place. The blue in that dot, the blue column is the 227,000. We're not too far off on the parks. Police is right almost on the money for their 20% requirement, and fire's got a little bit more money than they have. Obviously, Eric's pretty the chief. Both chiefs are busy. The police department is busy with that public safety building, so they got their hands full. I had another one in there, and I just clicked right out of that. Can you pull that back up? There's one more page, and I'm done.
That's where we'll have our next retreat.
I like that. But I think Eric said he was going to pay for it out of the police budget. Yeah, you go all the way to the end.
Will these slides be distributed to
Yes.
these committees?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
These
absolutely.
are all online. These are online now.
This one may not be.
Oh, this one is.
Yeah, but it will
Oh,
be.
the individuals are.
Yeah, it will be. That was my fault. We haven't got it. This is the last slide. I just want to put some definitions out there. And this may be more for the public than anybody else, but it's kind of nice to know some of these things. We talked about transfers in, transfers out. Predominantly, that's for capital purposes. One of the things we still have to do is we've got all the capital built into this. We need to make sure accounting combs through it and we've got all the transfers in place. So between now and the first reading, we'll go back and do that, make sure that everything's plugged in. I have a sneaking suspicion there will be additions to it, but it's just more of an accounting mechanism than anything else. Balanced budget, there's the definition of that balanced budget. It's total resources available for the expenses. It's not just annual revenue. It's all the resources you have to be able to use for all the expenses you need, plus any kind of leftover fund balance. So you guys have a fund balance policy. I enjoy that conversation anytime anybody has that with the rating agencies, because that's instant credibility. And being able to use that in the long-term forecast is very helpful. Budget amendment, that is really wordy. All it really does is within the state of Missouri, you've got a budget by fund. So anytime you go over that fund, you've got to amend the budget. Within the city, anytime you increase that number, it's got to come back to you guys. If we have a capital project that hasn't been budgeted, that needs to be budgeted, we bring it back to you guys. If there's funds moved from finance to HR or from public works to water sewer within the same fund, then Kathy can sign off on it. And then fund balance, it just goes over what I had mentioned before. And that is the bulk of what I got. We'll put this online.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely, along with the draft that's out there.
So next, we're going to be hearing from our department directors, but before we do, let's take a 10-minute break.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that was an excellent summary from Ben, an excellent overview. And so now what we're going to do is can you hear me? What we're going to do now is we're going to hear from our department directors who will provide an overview for their each individual department budgets. First, we'll start off with Alex with administration.
I'll wait for the gentleman to sit down. Well, good evening, Mayor, Board, and Finance Committee. Thank you for your time this evening. We're very excited to share our 2025 budget proposal with you, and really a recap of the appropriated dollars in 2024 and our respective successes. As the mayor mentioned, this is the part of the agenda where departments will be providing you with the overview of their 2024 accomplishments, 2025 budget proposals, and initiatives. There we go. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, perfect. That's awfully close. So as I mentioned, directors will be coming up throughout the rest of the agenda and really highlighting their 2024 accomplishments, 2025 budget proposals, and the initiatives that they have in place to make sure that Branson's tax dollars are being invested in the most efficient and effective manner. Just to recap on 2024, just to really take a step back and appreciate all that's been done through all the different departments and really implementing the board's vision this past year. I think there's four main buckets that we can kind of narrow this down to: of completion of major capital projects, completion of major policy initiatives, city hall productivity and culture reform, and building relationships with local and regional partners. As an example of a lot of the capital projects, Fire Station 4, our Recplex ball field turf project, beginning of demolition and starting the renovation of the White House for the police department. Our new fire engine that we brought into service, the beginning of the historic streetscape phase 4, the city campground expansion, Hiawatha Heights neighborhood improvements, the dispatch center relocation that's going to ultimately save the city approximately $1 million, and the Compton flood wall. And really, these are a lot of the capital projects, of course, that we really wanted to tackle and put a fast track on. Things in the past, of course, were rolled year to year, and we're really excited to be the bold, fresh face of implementation and execution. And it really starts from the city administrator and, of course, the board. But that mission and vision and attitude really is beginning to percolate down to frontline staff who are serving our customers and those that are interacting at City Hall. So we're really taking an objective look at when you interact with government, at least City of Branson local government, what is that experience? What does that look like? And how can we improve that? And so, to talk about 2024 and 2025 budget, the budget is a huge process of that. It's a huge milestone. It's a massive way to fund all these initiatives. But there are also a number of policy successes as well that we've been able to accomplish, including securing $6 million in the state budget for the 76 CID project. That's in addition to $6 million that we're able to collect that was previously owed to the city to offset those costs. We reformed short-term rentals, our lodging safety initiative, our CDBG affordable housing grants. We put in 6 applications this past year, specifically for disaster release funds. We were awarded one of those for $2.6 million. So we're very excited about that. That's going to be formally announced pretty soon. Of course, we're the vacation destination of the Kansas City Chiefs, and working with the Chamber and the CVB to implement that contract to really drive visitation and drive our city brand all the way across the region. In addition to that, we, of course, restructured our CVB contract to reflect the board's priorities of family, faith, flag, and Ozark Mountain Christmas. And also making sure that we're truly using city collected marketing dollars for within city limits. And that's a huge shift in thinking here that the administration, of course, has been really able to drive home with our counterparts at CVB. In addition, we're working on our economic development manual update. This is going to drive forward your vision as both the Finance Committee and the Board of Aldermen of really what does the future of Branson look like. This is in tandem with our comprehensive update that we're also doing for our comprehensive community plan. So we're looking at revamping this economic development manual to not only increase new and exciting growth and development, but also redevelopment within the city limits, whether it's tourism, whether it's housing. Those are all things that are on the table that we really want to explore and push forward. In addition, our red tape review initiative, this is something that you'll start to hear a lot more of this year. We have a number of projects where we'll be able to take a better look at how our city codes currently. Are there ways we can break down barriers? Can we cut the red tape per se of government, right, and allow for easier use to the end user? And also, how can we make it easier inside of City Hall to administer these codes? Sometimes there's ambiguous language, or there's areas of code that might not make sense or are difficult to actually administer fairly. So we really want to take a look at those and put a pathway forward of how we can break some of those down. You'll see coming up our food truck regulations on November 12th will be on our agenda meeting. That's one of our first red tape projects where we were able to sit down with our food truck industry and figure out some of their challenges, hold a roundtable, and then actually implement those changes. We're really excited about that. The Mammoth Fieldhouse was an economic development project. That was about a $40 million tourist attraction. We were able to get the developers agreement across the finish line on that one. And this is a really important one, and I'll let Chief Schmidt highlight this later, but full staffing in our police department. That was a decades-long issue that with Chief Schmidt's leadership and administration, and of course the board's backing, we were able to implement that. And you've seen that through numerous different projects that the chief's working on. And there's real results that are coming from that and keeping our community safe. So we're very, very happy with that. Our social media growth and outreach, and again, it's connecting with constituents, making them feel that their government is representative of their values, priorities, and really being able to highlight all the good work we're doing. And then lastly, of course, creating regional relationships. And that starts with our local municipalities, City of Hollister in particular, Taney County Health Department, our state reps, our state senators to advocate for Branson priorities in Jefferson City. So there's been a lot of really exciting things, not only in the budget space, but also in the policy space that is really moving our city forward at a speed I would say is that it's never really experienced. To give you an idea of administration department, so I'm going to be covering administration and legal today. This is our 2025 positions and budget summary. We have a number of staff. We have 6 staff here in administration. One position in particular, the strategic planning coordinator. This is a position that is new for 2024 and currently funded. This is a really important position because it's pinch hitting across multiple different issues, from our comprehensive plan update to red tape review to lean government to just a lot of the research projects of moving code forward and all the revisions as well. So we're very excited for that position. And then of course in our legal department, we've added this past year a new city attorney for litigation. And we're also in the process of hiring for a legal assistant for that position. Long have we have, of course, have a city attorney that would be Lauber Law, who we've contracted with. They do our general legal work. We also have a city prosecutor as well, who has a legal assistant. And, being a municipality with a $177 million budget or $138 million budget this year, you can imagine the legal resources that go into not only making sure we're staying off the rocks, but also making sure we're moving forward in a way that's lawful, legal, and all of our code and everything makes sense. So having that city attorney is crucial, but also having the litigation attorney. The city is currently in a limited number of lingering lawsuits. So having full-time resources to close those up and move on, and also assist our organization with other general attorney work, which we hope will produce cost savings in the long-term future. So give you an overview of administration's budget. City administration right around $680,000 a year. Communications department is about $250,000. We are general fund funded. Give you a couple minutes to look at that. So here's our legal budget. And again, you'll see an increase here from 2024 to 2025, but really what we're trying to do is right size our legal department. Having such a large organization and to have one city attorney minus the prosecutor is not advantageous to the city's best interest. So taking a look objectively, and this is something we plan on doing in the subsequent years, is really taking a look at what is the right size for our legal budget? What does that look like with in-house attorneys? Do we continue contracting? But there's been especially in last year and the year before that, there was a lot of legal services that just weren't being performed. And so there was, some additional appropriations we had to do to make sure we could right size that and get all that legal work out and done. And so we're very excited about where our legal department's heading, although there is a slight increase to date. So, and looking at 2025, we have a number of key goals, of course, with implementing key capital projects, and you'll hear from all the department directors today on their different plans for 2025 and what that looks like. But again, we really want to spur this year and really put a lot of time and effort into economic development. We have a number of challenges facing our community, right? One of those being housing, and that's something we want to tackle head on. So we have not only the economic development manual update, but we also are working on a incentive package for developers and really putting meat to the bones of how can we solve the housing issues that we face? What can the city government of Branson do? What in our respective space, absent, the lending community and other entities that impact that issue? How can we go ahead and do our part, right, as a local partner, try to incentivize that? So that's something you'll see in the budget this year. It's something that we're really focused on. In addition to increasing customer satisfaction and experience with city government in itself, a lot of citizens, right, their only brush with government is when they visit our finance department, right, to pay a bill or maybe to get a license. And so, although we're doing such great things across all the departments, right, and we're doing our best to promote that, sometimes the initial touch, right, that folks might have with our city government, maybe might be reading a news article, right, but most likely probably paying a bill or getting a license, getting a permit. We want to make that experience as best as possible. And so it really starts by putting ourselves in the customer's shoes when they walk into City Hall or having to deal with, local government. How can we make that easier for them? How can we make it more streamlined, more clear, and more efficient? Last thing I want to talk about is closing out our lodging safety initiative. That's something we started back in about a year ago, actually, and we're about to close that out. That's something we took and tackled directly head on, and we're very excited to close that out. So that's our 2025 budget. We appreciate any questions or feedback you might have.
Alex, could you go back to the 4 buckets at the beginning of your presentation real quick? I know tonight we're going to talk about a lot of numbers and department budgets and things like that, but these 4 factors I think are the unrealized scalable value that this budget talk presents, and I don't want it to be overshadowed by the numbers tonight, but this is where the value comes in when we talk about public safety, we talk about utilities and lifestyle. Like, this is the lifestyle component of this, which really is, as I see it, and as the leadership has been for the last 4 years, even before I got here, about a year before I got here, this has been the initiative that was started, and we've been able to push for this. But this is where the community sees the value. And so, as we talk about the numbers tonight, I want everybody to keep in mind that here's the real scalable value that we can't put to a number, but this is the most important thing that's going to happen tonight is when you guys present, this is the outcome of that. And this to me is kind of where the rubber meets the road and where the heart of Branson really gets to shine. So for you guys tonight, before you even present, I just want to tell you, already seeing this happen over the last 4 years, the sky's the limit as to what we can do. And I look forward to more of this happening. So thank you all.
Thank you, Ralph.
You're completed? You're done? Okay, next we're going to
Wait,
hear from.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Alex, two quick questions for you. We hired the litigating attorney. And last year, or this year, we spent significant amount of money with outside counsel in litigation activities. What I couldn't see is a corresponding reduction in contractual services as a result of that change. Can you just highlight that?
So the litigation attorney was recently onboarded merely maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
That dollar amount, I don't think we've seen the cost savings on that yet. I will tell you just on the general services for legal, that's a March. That's when that contract gets signed, is in March. So.
But I'm saying for your 2025 budget, I didn't see a corresponding forecast or budget of reduction in contractual legal services as a result.
The dollar amount that we spent on litigation was.
Is it not big enough that it doesn't register?
It's not quite big enough to make that big of an impact. I think the idea is by having a litigation attorney in-house, we're able to close those cases out. The firm we've contracted with is great, that was handling litigation. But ultimately there are a number of cases that have been going on for years. And so the dollar amount not necessarily might be that high, but they're going on for a long period of time.
Yeah. And then the other question I had for you was on your initiatives list, you talked about housing, which of course we're all interested in. Do you have any sense of numbers associated with that? Because I think you said, can you get to that slide?
Yeah. So there are a few
increasing. So do you have numbers that you're shooting for in that budget that we should see at the end of the year?
Are you talking about metrics for housing itself, or
well, when you
say
increasing, I'm particularly interested in the housing development. So what does that look like? What how are we going to measure that we're on the right track?
Excuse me, Glenn. We've got a lot to cover,
Yeah.
and this is a budget overview. I think that deserves a lengthy conversation, but we won't have time to get into
When
that.
are we going to have that?
It won't be tonight.
Oh, okay. No questions.
Next, we'll hear from Lisa Rao. Here's Lisa.
Okay, show me which button. All right, you guys.
Grab that microphone.
Where's your pom-poms? Pom-poms out. No, I want to start at the very beginning.
This is where you start, right?
No, back,
No.
you're giving it away.
We've already seen your
Oh, yeah, there it is.
presentation.
Okay.
We've already seen your
So what?
presentation. Next, we'll hear from.
Okay. All right, you guys didn't see that. All right, we are not going to talk about money. We're going to talk about reputation, image, brand, and credibility. So here we go. In looking back at 2024, it helps us to see the momentum and the strategy and tactics that we'll be following into 2025. And I want to talk most importantly about what I think was our biggest success, not only out of the comms department, but with all of you, all of us collectively, and Miss Kathy, of course, redefining and strengthening relationships. Guys, we're light years ahead of where we were, and it continues to build. And I will tell you that spending time, as I know many of you have, with Heather and Pam, a couple of hour meeting yesterday to review what you all will see on November 12th, and you will see Faith Family Flag, and you will see Downtown Branson and Vets and the Ozark Mountain Christmas, and it'll be such a different kind of approach. And so thank you to everyone for everything we did, and really and truly, Faith Family Flag, Heather gets it. So I'm sure that that's a relief to a lot of us. We also have been presenting events to bring personality to the city, bring attention, bring color, and therein we are connecting with our constituents and our audiences more readily than we were during more difficult times in the past. Rebuilding trust with the media. I don't know how some of those relationships got so severed, but we certainly have worked on that. And to me, that's the fun part, Ben. Increasing social engagement. Guys, we've done a good job. 2023 was good. We got to build on the momentum of 2023, moving into 2024. Then we got to add Maria, who has made a huge difference. The numbers we're going to look at are city site only, all right? Maria is also tending to the police and fire. And trust me, both chiefs are a lot easier to live with when they're happy with their social media. So here we go. Social media growth. This is 2024, not 2023. So on top of 2023, we built Facebook another already 122%. Instagram is up 100%. Why is it 100%? Because we just started that. Maria started that just a couple of months ago. We have what, Maria? 80? I think 80 followers at this point. So we'll be continuing to grow that. We also look at some of these numbers, y'all. Well, since I got here, I've been chasing that elusive 20,000 followers. We not only have reached it, we have surpassed it. We have lots of people clicking through on the information we want to provide them. Reach is strong. Content interaction up 25%. And that is a good number because, you know, the Chiefs increased our contact interaction already in 23, 86.6 thousand unique people visiting our site. That means our followers, we have to actually click follow. People watching us are 4 times what our followers are. And video views, we have been concentrating on video. Almost 300,000 video views, up 202%. So what do they want? They want the weather. Let me tell you, that's the number one thing. Every time we have bad weather, we go for frequency. We post a lot because every time we post, we gain more followers. In examples of that, I know Glenn has said nice things to Ted about the flash flooding strategy and tactics employed and doing Facebook Live, keeping people up to date. The next one is really thanks to Public Works. I'll tell you, those guys are letting us have their ride along camera photography as they're riding along. We're giving people ride alongs and we're making reels. We're giving people information about what roads are good and well traveled and which ones to avoid. Of course, always tips, tornado safety. And what else are they looking for? Of course, they're looking for city information, right? We're operating as best we can like a little news bureau. And in that, of course, we're trying to be fun and creative. I still have to feel bad about cutting off Glenn's head in this video, but we followed him around downtown in a walkabout. People love that kind of stuff. They love our information about fall cleanup. And as Michael knows, also we have to keep people informed about construction and water lines, meetings, making sure that people understand we're trying to connect with you and we want to hear what you have to say. And of course, when we make the news, the 76 CID was a pretty big newsmaker when we got the 6 million. And people, you guys, this is real people doing real things. We are showing the faces of the city. People love that, whether it's the guys out on the streets doing their work, it's the proclamations and city council and the music recognition that Marshall brings us, employees, employee of the month and employee activities. Remember when we marked all the storm drains? That was popular. And then the one on the right is, of course, out at Compton Drive, but we did dozens of testimonial videos of people saying why work for the city of Branson and how come they like their job. And that helped HR. City events, okay, we've all been enjoying that. We're going to do more of this. And of course, Fire Station 4, the Boom Zone. That was an awful lot of fun. Tribute to Valor, just a wonderful way to connect with patriotism. I'm going to tell you guys, the Ducks at the Jeeps, the #1 post of the whole year. It went off like viral wildfire. And then Turfs Up, where we invited the park employees to invite people in fun ways. And that's a fun department. Now, what else do they want? They want a connection to Chiefs Kingdom. We've seen that. And of course, whether it's cheerleaders, national anthem, or activities around town, the hometown hero, our very own hometown hero in Arrowhead Stadium. All right, so real quickly, I just want to mention the Chiefs marketing keeps getting stronger. Heather is working on it and working on making the contract give us more stuff, okay? But one thing that's important here is just the seasonal digital campaign alone converted to the website 11,000 people. So, you know, that's tracking pretty good. Wanted to show you this because city funds made this possible. That door slides open. Inside you get in just like an old time photo booth, out spits your photos, and they're all branded with Branson and have activities of Branson that are upcoming, and we can change those. These are at the tailgates. Now, looking forward, 2025, last slide, the year of the PD. We will be documenting the entire year of the construction. We will be providing video, drone tours, information, interviews, and we will create a mini documentary. And all of this with as a goal to ensure a successful grand opening at excellence. We will continue to increase engagement and grow that 20,000 followers. We will also concentrate on great city projects, downtown Branson streetscape, all things veterans and military. The tribute to valor, of course, will be back. And just today we met with the Blue Angels guy, and boy, are they thinking big. That's for August of 2025. We're going to have a great big event. And we will continue to really build those relationships and serve TCED, FOC, engaging all of that goes on with all things marketing, and really also hope to put an emphasis on growing the awareness of the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's it. Anybody questions?
I don't know.
Next, we'll hear from Haley. Haley, can you follow on that?
I don't know. Well, that was a lot
Huh?
of nice and tough one to follow.
That's right. You need a lot of this. Haley, we need.
Do I just hit the next button? Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Hello.
Loud. Oh, it's got to be like right in your face. That's nice.
Hi, thank you for having us.
So we will start with our organizational chart. We have made some changes this year in the HR department, with Crystal being promoted into the assistant finance director role. Yay! We're very excited for her, very sad for us. So that did reduce our department by a tad, but we're again very excited for her. So this is our current structure. This is our operating budget, which is also in all of your packets. The biggest increase we have is in wages, of course, as a normal increase, and then in our contractual services. So most of our contractual obligations have increased in some form or another, as everything on the planet has. So as an example, we handle all of random drug screens for the entire city, as well as pre-employment drug screens. And we expect that cost to be going up. We just went out to bid for it. So we've added a little to buffer some of those expenses. That's just one small contract that we hold, of course. But that's where the biggest chunk of our increase came from. A few metrics to share with you. So I thought I would include some information about our people, because as you've heard over the last few minutes, the culture increase and engagement of our employees has been huge over the last 2 years. So not only getting us to fully staffed or very close to fully staffed in all of our departments, but continuing on to just keep those people engaged and enjoying why they come to work. So we do have an average tenure right now of just under 7 years, which I think is pretty impressive. I don't think you get that in the private sector too often. Our average salary just over 60,000, which I think in Branson is pretty commendable for an average salary. In the hospitality world, which in entertainment, of course, is a big competitor for us, for employees, and I think that we're doing a good marketable wage there for those people. Our average age is 41.7. And then I included our average performance evaluation score. We score on a 3-point scale, so a 1, 2, or 3. So we're doing pretty well. So not everyone is doing phenomenal, but with 2 being meeting expectations, I think a 2.38 says that we're doing pretty well. So some achievements that we have increased our health and wellness challenges and participation. So you can see all of those there. We do change those up a little bit every year just based on what we're seeing come out of our health insurance claims. So as for instance, we saw the year before last, we were having some problems with people drinking too much soda, right? Too many sweets and those type of things in their diet. So we've really pushed our water challenge, our walking challenge, just getting people out and getting more active. And that was a big push for us this year as well. We've also added an employee recognition breakfast. At those breakfasts, we recognize incremental anniversaries. So those are our 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 year people and 30 employees of the month and our safety employees of the quarter. Our recruiting team has had 134 job recs, so quite an increase from last year. And we've completed 81 status changes. That affects our entire department. Everyone in HR touches that status change in some form or another. We've had 62 new hires, 9 transfers, 4 rehires, 47 promotions. I think that speaks a lot for our staff, for our leaders that are helping build careers for these people and give them a path, right, to succeed and be more successful at the city with a very targeted career path and ability to make it to that next step. And then we attended 10 job fairs this year, down 1 from last year because we chose to not go to one that wasn't successful for us last year. I included some information here on our benefits cost. As you saw in prior slides, we asked for a 10% increase from a budget perspective on health insurance. And I wanted to show why. So this number is through the end of August. There could be a little bit in there from September, but it is not a full month of claims of September. Just to show kind of that we are running a very, very high claims year. So our utilization is about 158.9% is our utilization right now in our health insurance, which means that we're spending much more than we're putting in. Our total estimated cost for the year for the city is $3.48 million. And again, at 2.9 that we've already spent through August, we're obviously going to get a little upsided there. So but I did want to show that we have 301 employees on our plan and 701 lives. So our health insurance plan is so important, not just for our city staff, but for their families as well. So I hope that that number shows that we're providing a very good insurance plan and that it's very beneficial, not just for our staff, but for their loved ones at home. I always like to talk about risk management and safety because it's a huge piece and definitely a place where we can save some dollars. And just give you some idea of what Bob does every day. So we did 37 verifications of employment, 121 insurance coverage determinations. Those go out with every contract that we do. Anyone that we're doing contracted labor work with, they all have coverage determinations that are produced out of our department. We had 26 FMLA approvals, 55 in-person safety training. So we did more than 1 a week, which is pretty impressive. We did have a reduction in our total work injuries. So it was an 86% reduction from last year, and then 12 property and liability incidents. Any questions on those? Other great things that Bob does, we implemented a backing policy. It has reduced our backing incidents about 89%. We negotiated all of those contracts there, which we're hoping will save us some money, but may increase some money as well. We did some renegotiating on the drug testing for where they're being handled, which pulled $5,000 out of our annual cost immediately. I think they're going to kick it back to us in our contract, but we'll work through that as we go. And then we added a professional athletic trainer from Cox Health to work with our fire and police to help them with their daily workouts, right? To ensure that they're doing a proper workout, that they're not just deadlifting, that they're also working on their endurance and all of the things that really make them a healthy employee, police officer, or firefighter. These are our initiatives. So the biggest one is just that we are looking to hire the best talent and optimize the hiring process. We are improving our HR software platform with a new HRIS and payroll. We'll be going out to bid for that towards the end of the year, and we'll have our HR manual update hopefully within first quarter. And then you can see the rest of those there. So this is our team, and we just like to say thank you.
So what I heard you say was for you to stay in budget, with the number of claims we've had, we need nobody to go to the hospital in November and December. Is that right?
That would be great.
Okay.
If you could make that
Just
happen,
checking. That's what I
appreciate that.
heard.
That would be great. Don't know that can happen, but that would be excellent.
Thank you, Haley.
Any questions? Yes.
Ma'am, you mentioned that, I don't know if it's or not, but you mentioned that there's like an 80+% reduction in work-related injuries. Is that like attributed to anything your department specifically did? And where do we normally see work-related injuries like concentrated back in the city?
Like what department do we see them in? It's going to vary, right? Department by department. The public safety people behind me are going to be your biggest components of that, right? I can't tell if it's police or fire. They're probably pretty even, right? As far as their injuries. They may have some that are more significant than others on one side or the other. We did have some pretty significant ones just due to those workouts, right? Some injuries from deadlifting, picking up weights, dropping things on a toe. That wasn't your real question. What was your actual question?
The first one was what was done to mitigate and bring 80% change?
Sure.
Was it a reduction of call volume or additional, mitigation you guys did to bring those injuries down?
It's having Bob in front of them and talking to them about what those injuries are and helping them find ways to do things so that that's not happening. I think it's that same kind of training aspect of the more you talk about things, even if it's again and again and again, right? Safety topics are kind of repetitive over the years, but that's how you learn to make that a muscle memory reaction as opposed to, bending over improperly and picking something up wrong. So it's that. I think it's Bob's consistent push of talking about those things. And then when an incident happens, Bob is there immediately. So he goes out, we do an after accident investigation and then really try to determine what that cause was and work to make sure it doesn't ever happen again. It's just that digging into what the incidents are.
Well, it's great. It's taking care of our folks serving the city, and then
bet.
it's going to play into the insurance conversation.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, Haley.
Yeah.
Next, we'll hear from Hillary.
Yes.
Hello. Okay, so we are going to talk about the city clerk and municipal court offices. That's us. There are 2 in the court. Can you hear me? I really do need to get close, don't I? Okay. Yeah. 2 in the court and 5 on the city clerk. So there's a total of 7 in our office. I know I say this a lot, but I am so proud of this team. They're just absolute experts in their field, top notch, and I am privileged to work with them every day. Even Kylan. Just kidding. So with that, we're going to jump right into the budget, which is not there. Well, I did that intentionally. Nope, there it is. So we don't have any capital asks and as you can see, we're actually not asking for an increase. And I'm sure your eyes have focused on that little decrease at the bottom of the screen. That is due to we've been able to find some efficiency. So we've shifted all current job responsibilities amongst staff, which has eliminated our need for a vacant position. So that is getting unfunded, and that's why you see those numbers right there. As far as contractual services, some of the things that pays for would be our muni code, our municipal judge, our records retention storage, and elections. So just some examples of that. And just as far as the services that we provide, both internally and externally, there you go. I did that intentionally. I was watching Kathy's face, actually. I made that intentionally busy because I really wanted to illustrate we really do a lot, and these tasks are not for the faint of heart. They are highly technical, and many of them have statutory requirements. So it is essential that we execute these to keep the city out of trouble. And I feel like we do that very well. So as far as accomplishments for 2024, we've had many notable ones, but the one I wanted to highlight, just because it was cool for us, is to be able to participate in the GoCaps program, which is just the high schoolers are able to go around and see different trades. And the reason that was cool for us is I know police and fire have been participating a while, but we haven't ever been able to do it before. And I know a lot of students, they grow up and they want to be policemen and firemen. I don't know very many of them that want to be city clerks. So to be able to get in front of them and educate educate them on what we do and to let them know that it's a worthy profession. It was exciting for us, and we actually had a student that chose us of all the people that she job shadowed, I guess, so to speak, to do her capstone project. So she came and met with us for several weeks, and she helped us design an administrative policy template, which we're in the process of implementing. And she actually graduated and came back and did a summer internship with us. So that partnership was really cool. And she started digitizing our building files, which is something that I've been wanting to do since I started 17 years ago as a little baby clerk. And so just being able to start that. So we did an internship, which was really cool. She was able to get some office experience and start that project. So moving into 2025, we're just going to keep doing that. I know we just released minutes online. That's just the beginning for us. We really want to make our records available online to reduce records requests, to reduce our need for storage. And that is where we're headed. And that is my presentation. Marsha? I was under 5 minutes. I just want to point that out as the first one. So.
Any questions for Hillary? No, thank you, Hillary. Mr. Chad Forrester, you're up next. Where's Chad?
Can you guys hear me okay? Yep, I'm up there, Mayor. That's where I'm at. Yeah. So if you can hear me okay, I'll get started. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I've had a family medical issue that's required me to be out of town, and Kathy was gracious enough to let me present remotely, and I appreciate that. Also, I don't think it's fair to have to follow Hillary when she clearly has more energy than me, and she had to show off about reducing her budget. So that's not fair. But any rate, we'll continue on. So we have a lot of departments to get to. I'll try really hard to move through this quickly. Our department overview, we have 8 positions now in the IT department, and you can see the hierarchy there on the screen. We have 1 open position, which is our GIS analyst position. We hope to fill very soon. We have a promising interview tomorrow, so hoping that works out. Our budget, next slide, please, Brandon. One more button. There you go. So our budget, as you can see here, we have kind of 3, like most internal service departments, 3 main categories: personnel, contractual services, and commodities. Our personnel is just over $1 million. Our contractual services is just under 300,000, and our commodities are right around 200,000. So our total budget is just right around 1.49 million. And a big question you might have is, how does that compare to last year? And it's up slightly, but only by around $25,000. No surprise there. That increase is primarily due to just things generally costing more, things like software subscriptions and fees. Next slide, please. So our 2024 accomplishments, our ERP system implementation is well underway. The core portions of the finance department is online, thanks to lots and lots of hard work from their staff. SCADA system, network, and server segmentation. We did this to improve our cybersecurity posture and continue to always monitor industry recommendations, trends, solutions to improve our position in that space. We also hired a consultant to provide analysis and a report to us, and we are working through that now to improve things. And they created detailed documentation for us and provided a whole list of recommendations for improvement to large projects, but we're working closely with Kendall and his staff to work through that. We did some Wi-Fi upgrades this year at City Hall and the Pacific Water Tower. To follow by the end of the year, the Recplex will get upgraded to just more modern and faster technology, better coverage. We increased our speed in our leased fiber circuits to 10 gig to increase speeds and efficiency over our network. We also launched a new redesigned branchmo.gov website. A kind of bigger splash hasn't went out on that yet, but we tried to make it more easier to use. We looked at our analytics and seeing what things people are trying to get to. We ask all the departments to update all their content, And we're already working and sharing ideas about the next big improvement to our website. So more on that coming soon. We also launched a new next generation 911 system with the dispatch and police department. Some of you may know we had some, I'm going to call it bumps in the road on this one. That was not a fault of city staff, but it just kind of was part of the process, unfortunately. But there is a big plus to that in terms of modern features like live video feeds from cell phones from people that are calling in for assistance, things like that. So in the end, I think it's a good upgrade. And lastly, we replaced our outdated phone system with a more modern cloud-based platform that actually saved the city several $1,000s a year. Next slide. So our GIS division, here's we'll highlight just a few things they've done. They released a new planning map application. This helps the planning department be much more efficient when creating map documents for displays and things like that. Things that used to take, 30, 45 minutes, an hour, they can do in a few minutes. We have a new water leak field mapping app. It allows utility staff to add data to our GIS system and keep track of staff time, supplies, and repairs for leaks. A water meter field data app as well allows their staff to look up addresses that have missing meters, and another tool that allows them to inspect the water meters. Since mid-January, I'm told we have their staff has done 3,290 meters that's been inspected with this app. And I think that's a testament to the hardworking staff over there that utilize, this technology is only as good as the people that want to use it. And so they definitely embrace it and are using it heavily. We have assisted with the transportation master plan as well, assisted the Public Works Department in compiling information about city streets, sidewalks, ADA curb ramp data, and things like that for the new master plan. We have a storm drain marking application. That's a marketing. That's definitely not marketing. We used this when we had a big community event several months back. I think the mayor was involved in that as well, and some of you in the room might have been. I think it was very successful. They marked over 500 storm drains, were either marked or verified, and some photos were taken and added to the database. So that was very successful. And also we worked with the fire department with the new Fire Station 4. There was some redistricting for the response zones. We worked to, redefine those so that the response times can remain within 5 minutes. And lastly, we worked in the GIS division to prep data for the new CAD Police RMS software solution that's forthcoming. Next slide. Strategic goals for 2025. I'll just discuss these briefly. We will continue to focus, obviously, on our operations, a strong focus on operations efficiencies and cybersecurity planning. And this will be, as we end 2024 and into 2025. We're going to work to improve citizen interaction experiences with our technology, continue to implement the ERP system and other enterprise software implementations, continue SCADA network modernization and upgrades, lots of work to do there, and continue expanding our GIS technologies and leveraging that very important data within pretty much all facets of our operations in the city. We already do a whole lot with that, and we're just going to keep on pushing. Next slide. Capital projects for 2025. We have a request in for $130,000 for a new data center SAN or storage area network. That's a scheduled end of life replacement and a network switch, a core network switch. We also have end of life replacements for some of our switches. And that's $40. I'm sorry, $40,000, not $40. And an IT vehicle that we've put in there for $37,000. If we end up leasing, that will obviously be taken out, but we're looking to replace an outdated 2008 Trailblazer. Next slide. Cybersecurity. So we do a whole lot in this space, very important space, but we just want to highlight what we're working on. And some of these you've heard before, but I think it's good just to remind you that this is always at the forefront of our minds. We work on this consistently every single day. and it's a bit of a cat and mouse, and things are always moving, and we are working very hard to keep up. We do internal and external penetration testing. We are working to develop a formalized cybersecurity response plan with a contract that I'm told is in contract management right now with the company to help with that. That's also going to facilitate rewriting and updating all of our IT policies and procedures. We'll continue to leverage services offered by federal agencies such as CISA, or the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Department of Homeland Security. Again, we're going to continue to work on the SCADA network and improve all facets of that. With the migration of our dispatch center to the water tower, we have to move some equipment there, and we're taking advantage of that opportunity to migrate some server resources into a new, we're going to call it a data center, but it's really a glorified server room over there, and clean up some things. And we continue to do monthly mandatory cybersecurity awareness training for all employees. Next slide, please. And we utilize a lot of federal resources and localized software. One of those things is called Albert. It's a resource that is a device on our network, a server that monitors the network traffic 24/7, 365 by a security operations center that's funded by Department of Homeland Security. If they see anything nefarious, if they question anything, we get notified immediately and we can look into that. They also provide resources to help us look into these things. And so that helps me and our staff sleep better at night, knowing we have those resources. We utilize things like CrowdStrike, which that had some issues earlier in the year, for those of you that know that, but it's a great, fundamentally sound product. And we utilize that to monitor and take action on all of our servers and endpoints. Threat Locker is another product we use for zero trust protection on all of our servers and endpoints. We also utilize our local, what's called affectionately the Mountain, which is a local data center. And we migrate and replicate all of our data to that location so that they're offsite, and we get them out of our geographic area per standard operating and industry standard procedures. And of course, we use multi-factor authentication on many, many things, including our critical hardware and software and things like switches, routers, and servers. With security, it's always a matter of do you want it secure or do you want convenience? And so it's not always convenient for our users to utilize this technology, but it's important. And I think generally everyone understands that importance today. And our users are very good about working with us to utilize that on a daily basis. Next slide. Just want to thank you for your time. I also have IT staff in the room. I appreciate them staying with us this evening. I couldn't be more proud of our department, the culture that we have in our department, and frankly, in our entire city. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Chad, you were in a department that, I hate to say it, but when we don't hear from you, that's good news, right? I never want to call from Chad at 2 a.m. The only question I had for you, Chad, was on that ERP. Do you have an anticipated rollout completion date? No.
The short answer is no. So, there's a longer answer that I'm happy to go into, but the short answer is no. We've got we're gonna pivot just a little bit, and it's a good thing. But we've implemented part of that system. We'll continue to implement other parts, and then you heard Haley mention the HR department. We're going to pivot on a couple things and tweak some things there, but in the end, you're going to get a much better product.
Sure.
Yep.
Is the finance component, is that the last component?
I wouldn't say it's, there's a large chunk of that's online. Yes, we still have some things to bring online, but the largest chunk of that is online currently. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Alex, you had something?
Sir, you brought it up in a previous meeting with us. I don't know if this might work.
It's all community.
You brought it up in a previous meeting about SCADA with some concerns.
Thank
Can you hear me now?
Brandon,
There we
your
go.
mic. I can perfectly.
So
Thank you.
in previous meetings, sir, you talked about SCADA, finance committee meetings this year about there's some unknown territory that we need to explore. And so with that, I know Alderman Scholes talked about having closed session executive meetings over those threats just to do like a real analysis of, as a tourist town, we have 10 million people coming to visit us. So it's not unreasonable to think that we would be someone that doesn't, that wants to do harm to would look at. So with that, are you budgeted and comfortable with funding the SCADA system updates? Is that going to be a combination of grant funding and internal staff work? Or are we budgeted to take on those updates to the SCADA system without diving into the security protocol stuff? I know you can't do that, but just what your level of comfort is from a budget standpoint to update.
Now, I will tell you from a budget standpoint and I'm very pleased that this board and administration support cybersecurity fully. I never have to question if we have a need and we take it to them. They don't go, well, I don't know, can we do this in a less expensive way? Or, because it's expensive, right? And so specifically to your question about SCADA and a closed executive session, Kathy and I and Alex have spoken about having one of those upcoming, and I'm happy to dive into those more sensitive details in that meeting. However, as far as funding it, the utilities department has various funding sources and they utilize those for these things. So it doesn't necessarily always hit the general fund, right? We look for ways to spread out equal cost that makes sense, right? That's fair. And so we're always looking at that. And that's why, it came up last year. It came up again this year in budget, and frankly, it'll come up in the future. It's a big elephant, and we continue to take chunks out of that, so to speak. But we're making very good progress. Very, very good progress.
Anybody else have questions for Chad? Chad, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Next, we'll hear from Crystal. Yay.
My presentation looks a little different, but we're going to roll with it. Okay, my name is Crystal Greathouse. I am the Assistant Finance Director. Real brief introduction to myself is I only have 5 minutes, so it'll be really brief. I've been with the city for over almost 14 years. I have worked in several different departments and had several different roles. I have worked with the police department, utilities department. I have worked with the finance department, the fire department, HR, and now I'm back to finance. So the running joke is I came back to finance. Okay. So get right into this. I have included a organizational chart of the finance department for 2025. This is subject to change with a new finance director coming in. I don't think that it will change much, but she may. What we do in the finance department. We have a well-rounded and very capable finance team in the finance department. There are a lot of things that we do. Unlike the clerk, I did not list all of them. I have a plus more. Financials, payroll, utility billing, sales tax, tourism tax, purchasing, accounts receivable, accounts payable, plus lots more. Our 2024 overview. We have paid 467 employees year to date. We have created 249 accounts receivable invoices equaling $1.7 million. Purchasing orders, we have completed 1,539. We are billing on a monthly basis water and sewer customers. That is combined water and sewer of over almost 4,000 customers per month, and sewer only customers is over 4,000 per month. One of our really big accomplishments that we have had in 2024 is we were the first department to implement the new Tyler ERP system. That was a huge task. We have implemented so far our general ledger, our purchasing, and our accounts payable. Year to date, and when I say these numbers, please know that these numbers are as of September 30th. We have collected $13 million year to date in tourism tax dollars and received $13 million in sales tax. The finance department's 2025 budget is not very complex. We have a decrease in our budget over 2024 of over $200,000. The main reason for this is because the licensing division is moving to the planning and development department. That is why you see that decrease in our budget. For 2025, we are continuing to implement the Tyler ERP. We have our general billing, our accounts receivable, our cashiering, our bids, e-procurement, and our utility billing. We will be starting that, and actually we're starting that now. We start that Friday. So we are super excited about that. We are ready for all of our modules to come on so they can work seamlessly together, because currently we are still working in 2 systems. And that is the conclusion of my presentation. Are there any questions for finance?
Sure, you always clap for the one that writes the payroll check. Anybody have any questions? Nope. So next we hear from Amanda.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about some planning and development. The Planning and Development Department is essential in managing Branson's growth while preserving the city's distinct character. By overseeing both residential and commercial projects, the department ensures they align with Branson's long-term goals, fostering sustainable development and prosperous future for our community. This approach helps maintain a balance between developmental needs and preserving what makes Branson unique. We've had a little bit of restructure in our department in 2024. It is organized into 4 key divisions, each playing a specialized role in supporting the city's growth and safety. Let's talk about that a little bit. We have our planning division. It manages zoning, land use, and long-term planning. They work to maintain the city's aesthetic, character, and alignment with the Branson's future development goals. They also engage in community outreach and collaboration with stakeholders to address the evolving needs of Branson. We have the Stormwater Division. They focus on managing stormwater runoff, flood prevention, and water quality. They work to protect Branson's natural resources and infrastructure from stormwater-related issues. I should say he collaborates with environmental initiatives like our MS4 Stormwater Management Program and H2 Ozarks to safeguard the region's natural beauty. Some of the code changes that we have implemented this year include updated permitted use tables for tattoo parlors, modified permitted use for manufactured housing, excluded multifamily dwellings from the entertainment district, adjusted regulations on manufactured homes, removed special use requirements for level 3 EV charging stations, and added noise and special use standards for data centers. Here's a short list of some of our goals in 2025. I'm sure we'll have some additions to this, but just to give you a little insight, and some of these we're going to try to get through the end of 24. And they include food trucks, farmers markets and tiny homes, land disturbance and landscape code, building permits and parking requirements, commercial safety lighting and fencing, preliminary plats, subdivisions, and planned developments. The aldermen are encouraged to select and sponsor specific code amendments. Some have already committed to supporting key initiatives, strengthening collaboration, and ensuring alignment with our community priorities. Thank you for your participation. If any of you are excited about any of these topics and would like to be involved, please reach out to our department. We would love to have you and get your input. Our overall goal is to align and modern planning and development trends to support the city's vision while meeting the needs of residents and developers. This is a little bit of planning and building comparisons. I won't go into it in detail, but the data shows growth across all key metrics, indicating a positive trend in planning and development activity in the 2024 compared to 2023. These numbers reflect the department's successful efforts to manage and facilitate growth, ensuring Branson remains an attractive location for development. This is an overview of the 2024 budget compared to 2025 budget and our increase. I'll talk just a little bit about our increase and where those funds will be utilized. The staffing, the increase supports wage adjustments and the transfer of 3 staff members from finance as part of a realignment of the licensing division to the planning and development department. The commodities, with more staff, we've expanded the commodities budget to meet an increased demand for supplies and operational resources. The contractual services, additional funding is allocated for a third-party plan reviewer to manage rising commercial development and ensure timely project reviews. This also includes new investments in body cameras for safety and accountability in field operations. The budget also is accounting for costs related to 2 surplus vehicles that we've had this year, unfortunately, and 1 that we're hoping will hang in until 2025. This will be supporting departmental operations and enhancing staff mobility by replacing at least 2 of the 3 vehicles. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Amanda? That's a big department this year. Here's Cindy.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Can you all hear me okay? So, here we go. We're going to start out with our mission statement, and that emphasizes being progressive, innovative, and resourceful, and working in partnership with our citizens. It's something that's really important to our department, and offering quality of life opportunities. So you can see we've got also some fun photos there of some things we have done this year to try to accomplish that. This next slide really breaks our department down into the 3 divisions that carry out our core functions. So that would be the administrative, the recreation facility management, and that's really our bread and butter. I mean, that's the things we do that really, those quality of life activities, our programs, our special events. Some of you might have been Bonanza last weekend, a lot of great activities, and also managing a lot of our facilities like the Recplex, the community center and the campground, and then our tournaments. And then lastly, our park and building maintenance. So those guys do a lot. They do a lot more than just park maintenance. So they maintain the parks, they maintain trails, a lot of our public facilities, including City Hall. They take care of downtown, a lot of custodial services in the city facilities, and 8 public restrooms. And so far, they have completed 619 work orders through October, and that all of last year we did 500. So doing a lot of stuff for the city. And we've got some fun statistics down here that talk about how many people are using our programs and our miles of trails and our parks. This next slide is just the organizational chart. It's kind of hard to see, but that's why I kind of went over what we just did in the 3 divisions. And so a little over half of our positions are maintenance positions. Okay, 2024 accomplishments. Can't wait to talk about this. So we did a lot in 2024. I know the city as a whole, as Kathy has talked about, has done a lot, but our ball field turfs, I'm still really excited about that, if you can't tell. So we opened those ball fields in the spring. We got the $1.6 million ARPA grant. That was a huge accomplishment for our department, and that funded 50% of the cost of the project. And so already this year, our estimated visitor spending for the ball fields alone is 34 million. So that's up about 5 million from last year. And the Recplex as a whole, which is the basketball and everything else we do, is about 57 million. Also, the RV park expansion. Has anybody been by there in the last 2 days? Because the roads are in. It's starting to look like a real campground. It's amazing. And so, Mayor, it's going to open in the spring. It's going to open in March. So that's the best you got right there.
March 1st?
March. So you got me there. So that's a $2 million project, $1.5 million in construction and $500,000 for the land. You see some pictures right there. Kind of moving on to our other capital improvements. If you've been down to the community center, we really reinvested in that facility. It's over 30 years old. So we put in some new flooring and did a lot with wall coverings. We put in new counters and cabinets, and really not done yet. We've got some bathrooms that we're going to put some tile in over the Christmas break. And so also got some roofing things that we're going to do with guttering. So a lot of improvements in that. And then to round out our capital improvements is really one of the best things is this community asset replacement plan. That has been so exciting for us because that is reinvesting in some of our older neighborhood parks. It's something the mayor talked about when he got originally elected. And we're really grateful and blessed to have that. So you see a picture of Stocksville Park. Has anybody heard of pickleball? Because that's all they do is play pickleball down there. It's really been really popular. So about a third of our money went into reinvesting in Stocksville Park. And then you see we Parnell Park, we just reopened that the other day with a new playground and the upgrades to the basketball court. Where by the end of the year, we'll have a new playground at Nygaard. We repainted our pool slides. And so those hadn't been touched since we opened almost 20 years ago. So some really cool things happening with the community asset replacement plan. These next few slides have to do with our budget summary. And so as this slide represents a summary of our expenses. So we recognize that personal expenses are going up. Ben touched on that as well as Haley. So that's represented in this slide. And that's mostly the health insurance and the COLA and merit. But if you look at the bottom slide, what we're looking at for total increases in our expenses for 2025 is $120,051. So the good news is, if you go to the next slide, our revenue is going up. So we're expecting our revenue to go up almost $450,000. So those or I'm sorry, 430,000. So those projects that I just keyed on that you all invested in, the campground, the turf, that is really what's paying dividends here. And that revenue is going up. So we're really excited about that. The new baseball and turf facilities, we have a tournament, a college tournament next weekend. So we're really extending out our season in the shoulder seasons and concession revenue. And so that's just the money to our department. Obviously, that the spending in the community is what I just talked about. And then we have high participation in our youth sports. And one of the things we hope to do in 2025. So we've been, using all of our savings, right? Our internal service fund. That's how we funded some of these projects. Ben will tell you that. So we're hoping to start recovering that back in 2025.
So Cindy?
Yes.
That says your projected revenues in 2025, you're anticipated that's going to increase by 400,000?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's phenomenal, Cindy.
Thank you so much. Well, that's made possible by the support of our administrator and this board because of these projects. So obviously that came at a cost, and we're going to be repaying those loans through the years, but it's generating new revenue. So we're excited about that. The last slide on the budget I'd like to talk about is capital improvements. We hope one of the requests is to continue the community asset replacement plan for 2025. So you see those top two pictures, that's of Iserman Park and the skate park. So those were put in the 1990s. And so we'd love to, continue what we've been doing this year if there's a possibility of funding that. And then kind of a long-term goal is to turf our soccer fields. Not tomorrow, but I don't know if there's an ARPA grant looming out there for us, but that would also create multi-purpose soccer fields. And then we'd be able to add 2 more ball fields to that as well. So, and then lastly, this trails coordinator position, I'm sorry, Marshall isn't here. So he's been a champion of that, but that position would be responsible for the development, planning, and promotion of a network of trails. So that was part of the 2030 community plan. And really, we see this trails position, I know Kathy sees it this way too, as kind of what the youth sports has done, right? This is really investing in our community. We think those people down in Northwest Arkansas that are enjoying that trail system. We think they'll come to Branson and really even add to what Holler and some of the other trails are doing for our community. So the other thing is the photo to the right, that's the land behind the Recplex. So that's a conceptual plan, but what was funded this year was a design and plan to really create a great plan for that. And so if we get this trails coordinator position, they would really go a long way to doing that and then developing trail connectivity. And then lastly, what I want to talk about is cost savings and process improvements. A lot of the departments have talked about that. We're really proud of that. And so I think our department has really epitomized or tried to how to stretch a dollar, right? And so those first few projects, the campground expansion project, it's hard to see, but there's a picture of the guys forming the concrete. So the city has served as our own general contractor for the campground expansion project between our department and the public works. And then not to leave out the utilities department, they have installed the water and sewer for us. So we've saved a ton of money by doing that project, kind of serving as our own general contractor. And then a picture to the right is the Recplex turf project. So if you remember, we installed the sunshades ourselves to the tune of savings of 110,000. And then the community center remodel, there's a picture. There's Tracy Burrow and some of our staff were staining some of the boards ourselves. So we'll do anything to save money. And then there's a few other that we've done through the years, and including build the IT and HR offices. So, you know, that's something we look at. Kathy talked about it in her opening, trying to look at things as a private sector and how we can really save that way. So we've tried to do that. So we estimate savings of $1 million. And I think Jim Cartwright is probably in every one of those pictures right there. So appreciate your support. Hope you'll continue to support us in 25, and thank you so much.
Cindy, hold on.
Sure.
On the neighborhood parks, how many neighborhood parks are you planning on upgrading in 25?
Well, it depends on how much money we're supported by. So, I mean, I think we've got several on our list.
How many do we have left to upgrade?
Probably 3 or 4 we'd like to do.
Well, you can do 3 or 4 in a year.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we can definitely do that. We just went a long way this year in getting off center on some of these older neighborhood parks that are not, you know, there's no revenue to support them. So it's been hard to fund these. And so we've had to dip into, you know, the city to provide that. And so we're excited about that. But yeah, I think we need to create a plan to do that. And you know, we've got Alexander Park, there's a lot of parks that we'd like to really look at. So
I can tell you, our community cherishes those neighborhood parks, and I get called every time one's completed. I know what's been completed. You guys get calls on that? Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about Parnell, Mayor. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, March 1st, I'll see you at the campground. I'll bring the ribbon.
I've narrowed down to March.
I'll bring the ribbon.
Okay.
We're going to take a short break before we continue on.
do the under of Hillary, so I gotta go over Alex.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
When we're ready, we're going to hear from Chief Schmidt. The illustrious Chief Schmidt.
Yes. Are we gonna wait for my boss or no?
Has she heard, does she need to hear what you have to say? Alex will cover it for her.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me present the police. Alex asked us to give basically our scope and responsibilities at the beginning. I think everybody kind of knows the responsibilities of police department, but in summary, we're responsible for community safety and service. And that service is a big one that I think sometimes people forget a lot about. When I think about our police department overall, we're basically problem solvers in numerous places, not just crime, mental health, addiction, homelessness, people that are just lost and wayward. So we always start with our mission, vision, values. You guys have heard me talk about the 6 pillars of policing. But there's some key words in here I really want to highlight. Now, remember, these came from our officers. So our reason for being is our community. It says it right there in the first sentence. We are part of the community is part of us. Then in our vision, we do fully expect to be the area leader in providing superior law enforcement results. And that's a big task, but we are going to be the best in the region. Teamwork is huge for us, not just in the PD, but also as a city. We've learned over the years that, we had to get out of these silo brackets and really work together. We're seeing that now in working with Mike and his folks on the PD project. But we really celebrate the wins citywide. Even if it's the fire department, we still celebrate it. So we are big into teamwork. We celebrate the wins. We cheer for everybody. And then service. There's a line in there that says no service is beneath us. When I first got here, boy, I heard a lot of it's not my job. Yeah. You will not hear that out of my officers. If you do, they're going to get handed their butts and we've done it once on a cat call. I remind everybody that on our interview, we talk about no services beneath us. So one value got left out of this. Unfortunately, it was cut off by that picture there, and that's fun. And I want you guys to remember that because we're going to come back to that at the end of this. So the next slide is our basically our org chart. That's our scope, right? I didn't realize until I looked at the presentation or the budget book that full-time employees, I've got the most in the city. So here's what you get for that. You will see that anybody that's familiar with the span of control knows that an ideal number for supervisor is 5 to 7. I have some that are in the range of 10 to 12. So that is one of my increases for this year. I've asked for a 4th lieutenant, and they did have the money for that. So we'll be adding to our command staff next year. Next slide is our budget comparisons. Unfortunately, I'd love to get up like some of the other directors and say I had some cost savings. You do see an increase in there. Unfortunately, when you add 21 more police officers and their salary and benefits, it's going to go up. And on top of that, we have that 900,000 for the dispatch project. I was hoping they'd find the money somewhere else, like the fire department or parks or something, but no, it came from us. So that you do see that increase there. Going to our accomplishments. What did you get for your money this year? Our motto for this year, it was coined by Sergeant Teague, is more for 24, right? And this is an incredible accomplishment for the year for a police department. Yes, we did hit full staffing for all of our patrol. Now we have already, we are underway with our first paid sergeant's assessment process. We have professional psychologists and leaders coming in to assess and help us choose the best and the brightest for our upward mobility. Things I want to highlight are officers and dispatchers, their 10-step pay scale and their leading pay in the region. I found out at a meeting earlier this year, and it was great to see the look on Paul Williams, the chief in Springfield's face when he found out that our officers and sergeants make about 4,000 more top out than theirs do. So that has allowed us to get to our 10-hour shifts, which has improved our overlaps, our street coverage. We're now proactive. We're not reactive anymore. We have much better in-service training. We are training to be the best because we want to be the best. One of our highlights is we told you that this year we were going to convert to 9mm for our sidearms. We have accomplished that. Not only that, 82% of our officers have also moved to red dot sites, which is a better site system. Of those 82%, our last qualification score in our first class with them was 89% was the average. So,
Wow.
or lowest, I'm sorry, that was the lowest score. So the average was in the 90s. So we're getting better every day. New CAD RMS project is underway. We hope to have that rolled out by July. It's all going good so far. That is going to streamline a lot for us. Our LPR program, the flock cameras you heard of, we doubled our cameras and actually added some for parks as well. And we are nailing many arrests a week just off of that system.
That's great.
Additional community involvement. And then of course the new badges, the challenge coins, and we are celebrating department pride and team culture. That was a big factor in helping us get to our staffing levels that we needed. So for 25, our goals and requests, I've already talked about the 4th lieutenant. We want to continue funding to finish that police station. It's going to be phenomenal. The new dispatch location, same thing. They're excited about that. Additional vehicles. We found that we have too many cops. We don't have enough cars. We got to put some more cars out there. So we're looking at new creative ways to accomplish that. And then a continuation of that improved training.
Bicycles?
I'm sorry?
Bicycle patrol?
We do have bicycles, and we're looking at motorcycles too.
We need more bicycles.
So yes. And so with that, to kind of accomplish what we talked about, our culture and that fun. Remember, I told you we'd come back to this. This was not planned. I'm glad it was left off of here. This was a post from a captain in the Missouri State Highway Patrol. And for those of you that don't know them, they think they're the stuff. All right. I don't know this guy. I believe he's out of Jeff City, but he said, got a kick out of Branson, Missouri PD's vision statement. In part, fun. And here's what we do. We believe that a fun place to work results in employees that enjoy their jobs and create stronger bonds with each other in the community. We strive for a family atmosphere that is respectful, encourages creativity, team building, and allows our people to pursue happiness every day. His comment, good stuff right there. Well done. And that is what you guys and the money that you've approved have allowed us to accomplish. So a big thank you from the men and women in the police department.
Chief, I will speak for myself, the alderman, and the community. We are so flippin' proud of our police department. That's a number one concern, police and fire, public safety with our community. And with the short time that you've been the chief, you have really elevated that department.
Thank you. And I want to give you one success story real quick. We had a bicycle stolen from Cindy's campground, an electric bicycle. One of 2 was taken. Our officer took a photo, put it out on our pass down. An officer that was off duty that night was surfing through Marketplace, found it. We set up a reverse string and we had that bicycle returned. Bad guy in jail in less than 24 hours. That's what you're getting for your money.
Okay, now we will hear from the softball champions fire department.
Stole my line tonight, Mayor. Thank you. While he's getting that set up, I wanted to quickly share with you, the clerk mentioned the Go Caps program. We started with that several years ago. It was very much a medical and business strand at the school, and we jumped on board on the medical side. And then the long story short of it, we shared with them that there's so many careers in the city government, from the engineer in the water in the utilities department to city engineering and streets, and all the different departments that we have here, that strand is growing. And we now have, with the police department and fire, we have 5 each going through like many academies from area schools, not just Branson. So that is growing, and we expect that to be a great recruitment tool for us in the future for municipal government.
Time start now.
Please. So want to brag a little bit on that program. Division Chief Novak's been a huge factor in that. When you go into our mission statement, the crews focus very much on compassion providing services, keyword compassion provide. That we know it's a bad day, whether it's police or fire or the services that we provide. That's a big factor for us. And so that's what we do every day. And then the vision statement is what do I want to do when I grow up, right? And that's really just to achieve excellence in everything we do. I think Eric alluded to that in the police department. We're the same in the fire. And we do that through the accreditation process. We're kind of baby stepping into that, but it helps us achieve excellence by about 250 different measurements to be streamlined, to be efficient, The budget process is a huge part of that in those measurements. So we expect to do that. And then, of course, we operate within 5 operating divisions of administration, the fire operations, the meat of the staff and what we do, the training and safety to meet those national standards, the technical services like the fire investigations and public education and building services, and all of that goes into play. Fire safety training for our businesses, our theaters, for example. And then emergency management is a big step as well. And, you know, one of the big key factors is I was hoping this would be changed by tonight. We are an ISO class 3 on 1 to 10 scale. 10 is no fire service protection and 1 is the best. There's very, very few of those, and actually a very small number of 3s. So we're in that higher scale of protection classes here in the city of Branson, and we're anxiously awaiting. I'm hoping that I'll be talking about a lower number in the very, very near future. We're just waiting on ISO to report back. This is the current organizational chart for the fire department. We have 61 personnel. We promised the addition of 3 battalion chief positions and 24-hour shift for the supervision, and then 12 firefighters. That was based on that public safety tax, and that commitment has been accomplished. We do have 61 authorized personnel, and the only change in 24 mid-year, we added the emergency management coordinator, and I want to say thank you for funding that. That's been a huge step for us. And what we were kind of doing part-time, we now have full-time commitment, plus so many others within the organization citywide are engaged in that process. So thank you very much for that. Reviewing the 24 budget items, successes, if you will. Obviously, we talked a lot about Fire Station 4. The citizens are bragging about that a lot. Point Royale, for example, is so thankful for the quick response times. So I think you'll see that we've been very mission focused with the funding that was allocated in FY24 to meet that standard of cover based on national standards and community expectations. The slide highlights work by many of our staff. We have staff function managers. The firefighters take on responsibility for budget planning and maintenance for different areas such as our bunker gear, our apparatus committee, personal protective equipment, health and wellness, technical rescue equipment, fire hose, and the list goes on. That it's not just me and Charlie or Chena or Ben or just saying, here's what we're going to buy. We get their engagement and their commitment to maintain those programs, and they get to learn from it as well throughout the year. And so also when you look at that list, we focused a lot on the infrastructure of the facilities. We've done well to meet the public safety tax commitments of adding the personnel, but we also have older infrastructure with 3 of the fire stations pushing 30 years in age right now. So that means roofs and mechanical and concrete and driveways and things that we have to replace throughout the year. Outdoor warning sirens, you think the 1980s weren't that long ago, but that's the age of some of our outdoor warning sirens. So we've been very fortunate to replace 2, 3, or 4 per year. Some of that has been grant funded. The equipment side, you'll see that we've been very active in improving our equipment resources as well for the service delivery here in our community. Looking at FY25, the overall budget request for the fire department is $8.4 million. This includes $1.1 million in capital projects, which is that left column, mainly again infrastructure, vehicles, some repeater upgrades on a radio system, a couple outdoor warning sirens are some of those examples within that $1.1 million. Debt service for about $415,000, and that leaves, if you subtract all that out, you have about $900,000 left to operate a fire department. So I think we're being very fiscally responsible for about $240,000 per station on average to do the utilities and maintenance and yard maintenance and equipment. And I think we're very strategic about that. As many departments have reported, a majority of our commitment is in personal expenditures. Some of the key changes from 24 to 25 in the budget items, as you review those, part-time wages, we would like to look at doing an intern next year. Again, an educational track within the city. The full-time wages, when you look at the 10-step plan, the training and travel, because we've added 13 people this year, that increased a little bit as well. Payouts, we've got a few older people in the fire department. It's not just us, there's several, but there are several.
That's no way to talk about the volunteer chaplain.
Yeah. Your payout's easy. So the payouts, we do have several people I thought we were just a baby department years ago, and now we've got several folks have been around a while. So we've kept some increases in there just in case we had a retirement, for example. Utilities, especially the water services, not the city of Branson, but the stations are in 2 other jurisdictions, maintenance and grounds and fire software with our new records management system this year. Future needs, just to keep on the radar beyond the 25 budget. We want to be looking forward. The biggest gap that we have right now is a need for an additional training officer and training facilities for practical skills. That is not softball practice. That is firefighting. No, we're good. So that's one area that we'd like to look at. We've talked about it for years, and I think it's really time to step up that game. And then just maintaining facilities and infrastructure like the parking lots and driveways that are starting to fall apart. This shows a little bit of a difference in budget from FY 24 to 25. You'll see that we're down a little bit. That's primarily because of capital, and our operating expenses are up just a little bit because of personnel. So I think we've stayed in that good, flat, manageable rate in there. And so just, I don't know why the pictures didn't populate, just brag on the folks that do great work in your fire department here. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Actually, Tina or Charlie, because they do most of this engagement here. So.
I just really have a comment. I love how fiscally responsible you are in that presentation. And you mentioned the training facility. If we don't dream about things like that, then they never happen. So, it's encouraging to me that you're talking about it, but like, let's really talk about it. Like, because I think it's vitally important, because again, it's that scalable thing that we can't put a number on, because the better you guys are trained, the better the response is, the better the outcomes are. And it's that training that gets it done. General Schwarzkopf in his biography says, the guys who did the basics were the guys who made it in the fog of war. And it's the training that makes that happen. And so I think that's vitally important, both in police and fire and public safety altogether. So I would encourage you guys to put that on the paper if you don't already have it, which I think you may have some resemblance of that. And let's look at it and let's think about it. Let's dream about it, because I think it's a possible thing. And if there's anything that this board can do, this is something that I think is an initiative that we can get behind and push forward on.
Thank you. Eric alluded to it. The training is a big part of it. And together, often we get looked at as special forces, but as we presented to you last Tuesday night about emergency management, it's a lot of people involved in the special forces here in all the departments. So it's huge buildup.
Ted, you've had conversations, I think, about that training facility out at our police department.
We'd like to be looking at, obviously we need to sit down and do some planning. And we need to look at the asphalt and the parking space and the fuel system. And so that's probably plan B. The main important part there is get that building open for the police department. We'll start the next step. Right.
Yeah, we're waiting on Eric.
Yeah. Well, it's a big exciting part coming up.
Thank you very much, Ted. Next, we'll hear from Kendall.
Kendall gets 10 minutes. Ooh.
I laughed when I first saw that. Five.
Thanks for
When you're ready to launch. Right? And it's not just Kendall, by the way, that I'm not picking on you. It's just we're over time, so I want to keep it nice and tight.
Yes, I'm gonna go fast as I can here.
Mike's gonna get the same treatment.
All right, perfect. All right, so let's begin. In our utilities budget, I want to talk about investment in personnel. So this is a big item for us because we currently have 60 employees, 4 different divisions: water treatment, water distribution, wastewater collection, wastewater treatment and lift stations, and our utility administration staff. In those staff, we have made significant grounds on filling vacant positions due to the 2023 salary adjustments. But I want to highlight where we're at today as a department with with our average years of service. So in 2023, we were at 9.46 average years of service. We are down to 5.9 years of average service. Within the first, we had four retirements this year, actually one today. Actually, he'll be retiring tomorrow of a 30-year employee. It's a very sad day to lose the institutional knowledge, but we are working on succession planning. So we prepare for that ahead of time, and we've got a great candidate to backfill that position. However, that trickles down to other positions in itself. But to give you perspective, we have 17 employees within their first year of employment. We have 22 employees within their between years 1 through 5. So we are relatively starting to become a new department. That's significant for our industry because it takes highly skilled people to perform the work. However, we need to retain those folks. So our salary adjustments, as well as our growth positions that we're planning for, as I talked about a personnel budget, will hopefully keep those people here. So I've got a great team. They're doing a phenomenal work. And again, I appreciate the support there. We've got community outreach real quick. We're participating in outreach of everybody from the middle school students to even elementary, high school students, and the Go Caps program, and even as well as teachers to try to promote interest in our industry. I think it's critical that we start reaching out as more and more retirees leave our industry, not just for Branson, but just nationwide. It's a huge issue. We need more outreach. So we appreciate the participation from our staff, but it also helps them grow in their public speaking and interaction skills with all these groups of people. So we're excited about that as well. 2024 operational. We had many successes in 2024. Again, we produced over 1 billion gallons of fresh drinking water for our community, and that's just on our service area, and with no deficiencies in the water quality itself. So that's a huge success for us. We've made great grounds through help with Chad's group with GIS, as he mentioned earlier, in tracking of maintenance tasks such as fire hydrants. All of our fire hydrants were inspected this year, which is a regulatory requirement, as well as we started inventorying of lead and galvanized service lines as part of the federal lead and copper update. So that has taken on a significant load. As Chad mentioned earlier, we inspected approximately 3,000 water meters and to identify service line types. That's going to be an ongoing effort. We've got our initial report submitted to DNR, meeting that regulatory requirement in October here. We've got to send out a bunch of letters, and this is going to be an ongoing program that is critical to keep our staff here and retain those folks so we can continue to grow that list. And then we had good results in our wastewater area, obviously with the effluent and the treatment processes. So we had great success there. Our emergency preparedness plans were executed flawlessly this year with storm events. We had one significant flood, I would say, but we had many storm events throughout the year that you may not hear of. However, but anytime it lightnings, we lose network connectivity. We have to in turn switch to emergency mode, and we operate plants manually. So our staff are well versed in that. And I'll dive into a little bit more of those components later on here. Our utilities administration staff do a phenomenal job of keeping all the divisions together. Everything from budget to contracts to training, keeping staff and their certifications to grant support and project administration. I have a phenomenal administration support there. Let's go on to capital for 2024. We've got a lot going on. Again, 2024, we had rate funded capital. On the water side, we had 10 line items for $1 million, and then in sewer equipment replacements, we had 15 line items for $1.1 million. There's multiple components within each of those line items. We had over 16 million of large capital work that we focused on for 2024. That included the Compton Drive flood project. We completed our lift station 46 project, which was just shy of $1 million. that we got through sewer sales tax funded. And then we completed design work for Hiawatha Heights for water system improvements. We worked in conjunction with Public Works, Michael's group, on design for 76 corridor water system improvements as well as downtown. And then also with Public Works on the Pacific Tower office renovation for not only security updates for our staff and our floors that we occupy, but also for the PD. Great collaboration between departments there to get projects designed. And also we worked on our water meter infrastructure of selecting a company. We're right in the middle of that process to hopefully replace our revenue generators, which is all of our water meters for next year. And then we also completed, as part of the rate funded, 2 water towers. We renovated Dewey Bald and Crosby Towers as well as part of those programs. And we also participated in updating our water and wastewater master plan. So this is significant in helping us better understand our system, what flows are doing, what capacities we have, and where our deficiencies are at. And that's going to be an ongoing project that we're just now received the final drafts for phase 1. And we'll work on the next couple phases here in the future. In this slide kind of did something funky there, but that's okay. So this is our 2024 capital progress. I wanted to highlight this. This is the percentages are related to number of tasks. We had 53 tasks, capital tasks. We're 42% complete, 42% in progress, and we're not started 6%, which will come here soon before the end of the year. And we have 10% we're planning on rolling to next year. And down at the bottom, there's a highlight of money saved by staff, $850,000 that we've saved through various methods. One would be in-house work that staff has completed in rebuilding pumps on their own due to the skill levels that they have. Or it could be, we originally planned on hiring out some work, and they, through assessment of the year, we figured out we can do it on our own. And we've saved several $100,000 in projects like that. Easements for Hiawatha Heights. We've been capturing those easements internally. We've saved over $100,000 in outside work by just performing that work inside. It does take away from staff capacity, but we have a good crew and they're working diligently to get those done, and we're really close. I need to highlight another area that we focus in is our biosolids, the Joint Municipal Utility Commission. So we're contracted to operate and maintain that facility in conjunction with other member cities. And we maintain a $1.4 million budget outside of this process for all those entities. So we have our hands in many different things. 2025 operational improvements. I just wanted to highlight here that our goal is to repeat our successes and work on our deficiencies, and some deficiencies that are noted is we need progression in our wastewater collection area of maintenance, and as far as flushing of lines, more CCTV inspections to limit the sanitary sewer overflows, and also identify more areas to reduce infiltration of unwanted waters into the sewer system. And that's coming part of our wastewater master plan as well. We'll have flow monitoring that we're working on getting into place as well as part of those future phases. But then also is to we have to continue to identify water service types for the regulatory reporting requirements. And then again, our goal is to always get fully staffed for our utility, and we're really close to doing that. And then I like pictures of our staff. Our staff do a phenomenal job, so I had to do a couple slides for operational improvements. All right, appropriations for 2025. I wanted to highlight here, as Ben mentioned earlier, we're really a business. Kathy's like, let's go. So real quick, taking depreciation out. So this has depreciation numbers in it. Last year, we had with capital funded projects through rates, we had 13.6 million. This year we have 14.4 million. So you're looking at it operationally, just operational only. what it takes us to run the utility, we're at a 2.7% increase overall in our cost. That follows along with our rate model, which I presented to the finance committee and to the board to get our rates approved for next year to help fund all this that we're asking for. So we're right on track. Personnel wise, we're actually at 0.44% increase. And reason being is because we had long-term employees retire. And so they're topped out at their high range. We're backfilling with in the lower part of that range. So that 0.44% covers for our COLAs, covers for our merit raises, covers for our promotions for staff growing into their next level positions from operator 1 to an operator 2. That's part of our retention program. So we're doing phenomenal, I think, as far as keeping our costs down in that aspect. Seen more of our increases in contractual and commodities. We're at 6.42% increase in contractual and 7.3% increase in commodities. That's due to being more proactive in maintenance, as well as some inflationary costs there of certain items. So capital projects, we got a ton of capital projects. We try to, the first section there is focused on rates. Funded capital, and that's part of the rate increases that we proposed. So water system at 1.35 million, wastewater system at 1.2 million. And then tourism funded projects, that is a whole nother animal in itself. But there's $20 million sitting there, and it's focused towards neighborhood improvements. It's focused towards 76 downtown, lift stations. It's focused in emergency generators that's needed. Also growth in housing as well. And then I need to highlight the bottom line item is network security, because we had a great question earlier about network security. So I want to touch base a little bit on that, is that we worked diligently this year to do a study of our network in conjunction with IT department, Chad and his group. We found out some deficiencies. Let's just say that. And we have a plan put in place as part of this capital project. We have 700,000 dedicated towards not only hardware replacement, but also some software or network auditing. They can help me with terms they're more proficient at it than I am. But a software out there that keeps track of any kind of, it kind of pre-warns us of issues that pop up. So, so we have to do this in a phased approach, because we don't have the capacity to do it all at once. And this will be hired out as a contractor performing that work as well. I think that's it. Happy to answer your questions.
All right.
Hey, 13 minutes. 3 minutes over.
Oh, that's okay. Now you gave yourself the extra minutes.
I took Hillary's minutes.
Kendall, I think you deserve the extra time for all these things you're talking about. And since you have some time remaining, I have a question. On the horizon is the Cooper Creek water treatment expansion.
So we are working on that wastewater master plan. We just received the final draft of that master plan. It's under review right now.
Great.
And so part of that is understanding where we're at in our capacities today.
Good.
And so as we work through that and finalize that, we'll have a better idea of where we stand with Cooper Creek. And then we're keeping that within our radar. If you notice in our 5-year capital plan and in the budget book itself, you'll see Cooper Creek expansion is listed in that 5-year plan. I got it stretched out there a little bit to kind of always keep it in our forefront, but we are keeping that close eye on that. And once that happens, we'll have to do some bonding to make that work.
Maybe we go down the road of some grants like we got for this one, right?
Yes.
So time's on our side, so we need to start that process.
We're working through those processes right now with that master plan update.
Does anybody else have any questions for Kendall? Artie? Oh, Glenn.
I just want to clarify this, following up on the same issue that Dr. Williams asked. Is the is the 700,000 all in this year now? Because I thought when I looked at the online version of your plan, it had 350 split between 2 years. Did that change or did I misread that?
It's misread it. It's 350,000 for sewer, 350,000 for water.
Okay, so that's the way it's split, is in the
Yes.
two different budgets. Thank you.
You mentioned about the Hiawatha Heights easements. Where do we stand on that?
So we're just over 100 easements. I think we're shy 22 easements. I think that's 11 commercial, 11 residential. So we're working through those and hopefully get those wrapped up here soon.
Any other questions? Kendall still has plenty of time. Thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.
And next up is the speed talker, Michael Woods.
Oh, yeah. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of all the boards that are here today. I'm the only thing that's between you and going home. So we'll get this done quick. I wanted to introduce Matt next to me. He's assistant engineer. I'm grateful to have somebody I call my friend to work with. Didn't know he was going to be my friend, but came to the city and we have a good time together. So with that being said, we'll go really quickly. Economic development year of construction is kind of the delivery line this year. For those that sat on these boards before, they listened to us talk about smart investment in our people. We did that last year. We took care of our people. We staffed up. We made sure to apply the right treatment at the right time. And I've toned that down a little bit. Again, in your budget package, you have $2 million of discretionary spending that helps us get ADA sidewalk improvements and along with asphalt treatments that are there. Playing in construction of capital projects. That's what we're doing. We're building. So you gave us some money and said, get to work. Design, we're in the background of all these projects. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with all different types of directors and seeing their needs, from the police department to the fire department multiple times and back and forth. We're always here to help. So bigger, bolder 5-year plan. 5 years is kind of the goal set I've always set for myself in life. Making sure that we're on time and on budget. We delivered one on time and on budget, and we don't want to just pull out the rabbit out of the hat once, but it's multiple times, and we're going to go over that for just half a second. And the challenge always to all of our people or administrators, they run their own business. I'm their boss. At the end of the day, I'm the CEO, and they have to treat it like it's their own budget. They're scared of me when I look at their P cards because I'll be like, why? So very good. With that being true, this is the whole department that's there. You'll see one new project manager for 2025. As we said, we have a bunch of projects coming on, and we know somebody that is going to be leaving through our attrition and retire at the end of the year. So it makes sense to backload that. We also did a fleet manager / shop manager. We combined that together. So you see a net increase of 0. We're going to see how that works, but you guys gave us the thumbs up to reorganize the department. I think you've seen delivery from things from picking up trash to services to fall cleanup, spring cleanup. Yesterday, there were no lights downtown. Today, there's lights when you leave. So may not be 100%, but we're really darn close. So what used to take 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks is turned around and made sure that the efficiencies are there and we put the right people in the right spot. We turned around your fall and spring cleanup, used to be 2.5 weeks long, did in 3 days, 3.2 days to be exact. So we went back for people that felt like they got missed. So again, excellent communication through all the directors, from comms to everything else. Our message is being held loud and clear. Challenge treat the budget. If you're I could spend all day up here talking about the accomplishments of the team. It's not just me, it's our team that makes these things happen. It's the team in the city of Branson. From Fire Station 4 completion on time and on budget was a pleasure to work with. Fire Station 2 remodel plan development, those plans are done, going out to bid next week. Fire Station 3, we took care of a roof and an HVAC there. Police Station, final plans. bids, bonds, construction, and dispatch plan development is all going very quickly. 24 mill and overlay, we put down $1.3 million, took care of in front of all the schools. We also saw the striping program get in. TAP research and application for 76. I think that's important to highlight that we come asking for the least amount of money we can, and we make sure that we collect all the government tokens that we can from the federal government and the state government. So segment 3 saw 670,000, segment 1 and 2, 541,000. That's hard work by Cheryl and other various staff members writing those grants and funds there. We bid and purchased quite a bit of equipment this year. We did $440,000, just a lump sum. It's not going to buy 5 dump trucks, by anything like that, but we're going to replace what needs to be replaced over the next couple of years. A little bit here, a little bit there. We also asked for $500,000 for a public works building. You funded part of that last year. We did a little bit of in-house design on that. We're going to take care of a couple of grading issues and a stormwater issue. So overall, 1.2. I didn't bring that up as a number up there, but other things that we took care of. New bidding process. We thank you for supporting that. That was super successful. We bought something from the not our utility company, but electric utility company that they were done with, but it serves our needs very well, and giving us 2 boom trucks that actually can reach the lights really does help. Branson Landing Veterans Safety, we did some powder coating there. We had hired somebody out, and our in-house guys had to take it over because company wasn't large enough to handle it. Beautiful job that our guys in-house did. Took a little bit longer, but it will last us for many, many years, and it's very expensive to do. So thank you. And thanks to the guys at Public Works, because I know a lot of them will watch this, so they'll say, how quick can he talk? So elevator and upgrade, City Hall, Caudell and Celtics plans are complete. We had an interesting thing come, not very often, to government call and say, hey, you applied for ARPA in 2022, and we have some money left over. We're trying to take advantage of that opportunity. We talked about that with Colby and Ben today about what that looks like funding that forward. That is out to bid. So that being out to bid, then they analyze it. Did we do a good job? And I'm thankful for Matt sitting next to me here. It takes a lot of engineering work to get things done. I know the mayor's seen some of our plans. I mean, roughly a set of plans is about 1,000 pages when everything's said and done, between design contracts and specifications that go on. Wayside Horn, we took care of some of that. Transportation master plan is very important. It's a multi-year process they're going through. We had a bunch of equipment in town that took a look at sidewalks and streets and are going to give us some ratings and an idea of how to move forward. 165 and 76 Gretna intersection, it is in design now, so construction could align with segments 1 and 2 as that's going forward. Traffic signal software, we made a 5-year agreement, so you don't have those escalating costs. That was smart business, smart moving. Very good thought for that. Street striping program, we talked about that. If we got it down twice, we paid for the vehicle. Thank you for supporting that. First year is done. We did not do 76 because we know we're going to spend money there. So why would you rip it up, what you're going to do there? So, but you'll see some striping and some work get done up there. But we went throughout the city and took care of the roads that hadn't been done in multiple years. Compton Wall and Inspection collaboration with Kimball's group. We do provide construction inspection across the city to all the departments to make sure they get the product that they want, from parks to Compton. Street maintenance division, I think we've kind of quickly went over what they do. That's a large part of our budget, and we're taking care of business. Your streets are in better shape than they've probably been. We have a long way to go. They were neglected for a little bit, but thank you for the continued support of $2 million a year. We also, all these services that you see there are services that we provide every day. Our goal is that if you place a phone call to me within 48 hours, we've at least got eyeballs on it and started to address it. And then we reach back. Very important to me and my staff. Capital projects, you've kind of seen all this tonight. This is why they didn't let me go first, because last year I ruined the surprise with cool pictures, and they say I'm the only one with cool pictures. So we're out there. So thanks to Ted Martin and their crew up there. Fire Station 4 was a lot of fun, exciting. I remember talking about it to my dad. I said, who would have thought I would have went to school and all of a sudden I'd do a fire department and a police station. He said, before you know it, they'll both be built. Well, here's one, Dad, and here comes the next one. So pictures above there, that's just a few weeks ago. You see that's an exciting picture for us when we see pump trucks, because that means the foundations are going in. The building's come a long way, and Eric's group at the PD and all the officers down there really listen to the beat and really sit down with us and make sure we're budget oriented while providing what the officers need for the future. And I'm so proud of all them, and they now see the other side, that how we get to 5,000 plans. So I like when Eric says, "You're my engineer." So that's kind of fun. So
1 minute, Michael.
1 minute and I'm done. See, I feel like I went really fast. Capital management of 76, got easement acquisition. Y'all have heard about 76, should be going out to bid next year, $30 million project, Z crossings, some of the most changing, driven stuff that can help our economy down here. And that's important. The last one that I'm going to highlight, you're going to get a study session coming up shortly, is downtown phase 4, $5 million. And that's just a hint of the lights and the fun things that are going to happen down there. But it is about the infrastructure of the sidewalks, Kendall's group helping us with making sure that the water lines are taken care of, and we provide a great place to come and a safe place to walk. So it is not as we could do better. We'll put it that way. Collaborated projects, Fire Station 2, there's my timer. RV park, various lift stations, neighborhood water improvements and design, and ongoing projects that we've already kind of gone over. And we have Elevate Branson that's hopefully coming online with some CBDG money. Public Works, thank you for your guys' time, belief, and all the directors that are here. And thank you to Kathy and Alex and our administration for always pushing us to be the very best that we can be. Now you get to go. No, I'm just kidding.
You told us that paint striper was going to pay itself off.
Yep.
Right? Good for you. Are there any questions for Michael? Michael, just very proud of you and what you're doing. And for, you know what, for all of our directors, when we listen to you, we hear your passion. We hear that, you know, how engaged you are and how much it cares. And that goes a long way. I could not be more proud. I could not be more proud of where we are and where we're headed and the team that we have behind us. Any board members have any questions? Board of Aldermen have any questions for anybody, any of the directors?
Great job, guys. Hey, girls.
Finance department, board?
Yeah. So as a resident, thank you again for what you guys do. It's like 9 o'clock at night and you guys are still got your head in the game. I know it's been a super long session, but it goes without saying that all of you guys go into this type of work not to get rich. It's not a get rich quick scheme. So thanks for choosing to care about other people while taking care of your own families, right? You guys have families too, just like all of us, but it goes to show that you take care of 10 million visitors really, really well. And you're not like the rest of the government where people get really upset that their tax dollars aren't going to good use. Well, we know that if the rest of the country would just take a page out of our playbook, we might not have some of the problems that we have in 2024. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you. So this will be fun. It's 9:15 and Kathy's going to give us some closing remarks.
I think we're good. Honestly, I don't think I could. I really can't top what was just said by Michael. This is why we have Michael as our cleanup batter, right? Cleanup hitter, whatever they say in baseball. I don't really watch baseball. But again, thank you everybody for your attention. I'm sorry we ran over. We weren't quite exactly sure how to time this out, but thank you so much for your patience and indulgence. I do want to encourage everybody, if you, again, reminder, if you've got, and I'm sure there will be additional questions or clarifications, please feel free to send those directly to my email. And we will field those to the appropriate department heads and turn around and share, you know, we'll collate them and then turn around and share it with everybody back out again. So you guys can feel comfortable and confident about where we're headed. Sky's the limit, man. Nice
So-
job, everybody. Thank you.
So Board of Aldermen, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Finance Committee, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn that meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye. Motion approved. That's it. Thank you very, very much.